and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another evening of Fast and Furious 6-cylinder German machine racing action that is the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup Season 8, and today marks round 8 of 13, which sees our drivers take to the Australian circuit of Mount Panorama for the one and only second endurance race round of the season. Indeed, we are here at the Bathurst City Circuit, an unconventional circuit by many modern standards, with 114 metre elevation change from the lowest point of the circuit on the start-finish straight all the way up to the highest point of the circuit at Skyline at turn number 12. This is a circuit that needs no introduction when drivers go racing at it, in the fact that it's one of the most tantalisingly difficult circuits in the world, and our drivers today will be taken to it for 45 minutes of racing action. And as the circuit falls silent in the background currently with the current pre-race drivers briefing underway, it's the perfect time for us to get ready to go racing, with this broadcast being brought to you live from circuit side, only available on the official UK Sim Racing Twitch channel. Indeed, that's at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. As we get underway today, we welcome you all in the Twitch chat there, and I can see a good number of you already absolutely hyped for tonight, including Jock Mill, also there, Medmo and Divide_Rule. And those of you who haven't said hello or let us know how hyped you are so far, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here at UK Sim Racing, and we definitely don't bite here in the commentary booth, with all your racing action being brought to you live from circuit side by myself. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. But without further ado, let's give you a quick recap of our championship calendar so far, and why this round is going to be so pivotal, particularly when we look at the calendar and how close we are to our second mid-season break. Well, as we can see, we started off all the way back on the 28th of September, and today is the 2nd of November. It's crazy to think an entire month has passed us already, but indeed the racing action hasn't let up at any point in the past. We started off with rounds 1 and 2 in Brazil at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, and there was battles aplenty at the front, in the midfield and at the rear of the field, but we got to see Ben Kirby in the bronze class absolutely dominating the bronze class, albeit with a little bit of fortune on his side when it all went wrong for Charlie Max in the feature race in particular, where late spin pushing him out of contention for the win. Then we had our first mid-season break, a very short run before our first mid-season break due to scheduling with official iRacing series events. We returned with a bang in our first endurance race round of the season with round number 3 at the Circuit of the Americas. And at the COTA circuit there, we got to see it was all about the Texas two-step, with the Austin circuit bringing us some absolutely brilliant racing to life. And whilst many said they weren't looking forward to the Circuit of the Americas, given it's such a tough circuit to race at, over 45 minutes of racing, we got to see a spectacle all the way through the field. In particular, it was the battle for the silver class win between Lucas Serrano and Carl Felvers, with Carl Felvers at the time being in the silver class, but now gold class of course. But at the time we got to see Carl Felvers absolutely leading out front, but pushing too hard in his tyres on the 12th of October, and it was Lucas Serrano who was able to come on through on the penultimate lap to take the silver class victory. Wind the clock forward to the 19th of October, and we remained in the United States of America. We made our way to downtown Detroit for the Belle Isle Park circuit in the state of Michigan, and there the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle did not disappoint. We got to see some brilliant battling at the front of the field, where the long-awaited battle of Hammer versus Cope made its way, particularly in the sprint race and also in the feature race. There's both battled their way through the order, but we also got to see Charlie Max strike back at Detroit, bringing home a back-to-back pair of wins and levelling out the bronze class. And last time out was round 6 and 7 in Spain at the Motorland Aragon circuit, also known as the Circuito de Alcañiz. And on the 26th of October, it was full of change on the grid. We saw two drivers swap classes, with Carl Felvers being moved up to the gold class, given his stellar performances in the silver class. And what a day he had in Spain. He may not have picked up the largest haul of points, but I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, he was a superstar out there, and he didn't let the fact he'd been moved up a class get to him, particularly in the feature race, where he spent the best part of 15.5 minutes keeping Philip Hammer at bay, and also Nathan Foster in that regard. He wilted in the end due to outbreaking himself into the hairpin at the Circuito de Alcañiz, but still he took the spotlight, there's no doubt about it. And we also got to see some brilliant drives from other drivers in the field, particularly from the likes of Jeremy Debova, who leads the way in a freeway fight for the Silver Championship lead. But now it's round number 8, and we are here in Australia for Mount Panorama, and after today we have our second mid-season break, and that's why this round is so important to our drivers, in the fact that whoever wins here today can take the momentum forward into a mid-season break, and it leaves you with that feel-good feeling going into the final 3 weeks of the season. And speaking of which, our next pair of rounds will be rounds 9 and 10 at the Nürburgring at Nordschleife on the 16th of November, while drivers head to Germany, the home of the Porsche manufacturer of course, and they'll be taking on the Green Hell in its full entirety. And then for our penultimate pair of rounds in the season, our final what is a heat and feature race round pair, it'll be at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Di Dino Ferrari, and that'll be rounds 11 and 12 at the Imola circuit, as it's also known in Italy, on the 23rd of November. and we bring it all to a close at Road Atlanta, the roller coaster ride of road racing in the American state of Georgia, particularly near Brazelton City, and that'll be round 13 of 13 on the 30th of November, so still plenty to come. But indeed, we have got a big story to tell here today. And let's give you a recap of those championship standings after 7 of 13 rounds. And we start off with the Gold Class Drivers' Championship. And here we can see Philip Hammer continues to lead on 147 points. He has, on paper, expanded his championship lead. It's now up to a margin of which 25 points over Nathan Foster, with the Empire Motorsport driver keeping Impulse Racing's Hammer honest every step of the way. However, look who's now in P3, only 3 points off. Thomas Cope from Olympus XGD. And why is this important, you may ask? Well, keep in mind that Cope was not on the grid for the first 2 rounds of the season. He already has his drop scores in effect compared to the 2 leaders, and therefore, with the gap between himself and Philip Hammer there being only in the margin of what is 30, or in fact not 38 points, 28 points when we do the mathematics correctly, it does mean that Cope is gradually closing down the distance, and that is before a drop score is accounted for, and therefore Cope right now really building that momentum, particularly after back-to-back wins last time out. But outside the top 3, we also see there in P4 the Olympus XGD number 2 driver, Oisin Hereford in the championship on 102 points. He's taking care of Emil Koopmans, the Apex Misters driver, who finally found his way back onto the podium in the feature race at the Sakito de Alcanis last time out, long awaited for, and a brilliant drive from the Dutchman. And it's Corey Lazarus ahead of Nicholas Nold with only 10 points between them, and then a further, what is there, 8 points, well in fact 7 points to Carl Felvers, HFT Racing. Then we have a sizable gap spanning the best part of what is there, 28 points to Tim Darracott and Simon Seabamber completing the top 10, while Lee Holmes and Ryan Walker round off the gold standings. We then come on to the silver class, and here we can see Jeremy DeBova from DBR leads the way, and indeed a huge gulf at the top of the stands was left with Carl Phelps' promotion, and immediately DeBova, Casper Tunstedt and Lucas Romano have all leapt at the opportunity to chase down that lead, but it is DeBova who holds it only by 5 points over Peak Sim Racing's Casper Tunstedt, who took his first ever Porsche Cup UK Sim Racing career win last time out in what was the feature race at the Sakito de Alcanis, and a brilliant drive there from the Peak Sim Racing driver, and we can expect plenty more from him tonight. Lucas Romano a further 5 points behind from RPM. It goes to show the top 3 separated by only 10 points, but let's not be rude to our good German driver of Forsten Siffert from Ringversiert Sim Racing, who a further 4 points behind. Right now is looking for a huge score. He's been waiting for one, and we keep talking about the fact, when will his day come? Well, could today be the day for the German driver? We'll have to wait and see, but he's got to keep in mind he's only 10 points clear of Chris Eddersford, with Sean Cranny-Tross from 24-hour Punty People continuing to battle his way towards the top 5, now in P6, 7 points off of the top 5, and it's Marcel Fritsch, who haven't been demoted down to the silver class as of the previous round. We're looking at very good so far for battling for a top 5 as well for WS Racing Esports. We then have DDD Verlaming ahead of Gus Franken, with Glenn Humberstone a further 2 points behind the RPM driver, completing the top 10 for ATEC Tech Racing Purple, and then outside the top 10, not to be forgotten about Navarro DeBova, Roxanne Marsh, who's back on the grid today for her favourite combination, which is Porsche Cup and Bathurst, and 24-hour Punty People driver absolutely excited from what I can gather, and then Nicholas Grunstrom completing the stands there for Beak Sim Racing. We then come on to the bronze class, the last of our drivers' classes, but by no means least. And it's Charlie Max who leads the way by only 3 points for Friends Racing by Connexus over the sister team of All Spares by Connexus' Ben Kirby. Indeed, it's a 2-horse race between these two currently. Can anybody sandwich their way in to the mix? Because right now, Max and Kirby continue to exchange blows. They're like two boxers, if you will, in the heavyweight ring. They're both landing blows on each other, but nobody's landed a knockout so far in terms of being able to find a way to break away. But could Max or Kirby do that today, given the fact that it really is the challenge of Mount Panorama, and it is a circuit where championships can be spoiled or won. Meanwhile, Sean Dobie in P3 for Clicks Racing continues to try and close the gap to the top 2, but he's got to be wary of the fact he has the ATEC Tech Racing silent pair of Craig Shield and Alistair Hatcher on his heels, and it's Mark Cadmore P6 ahead of Jane McEwen, with Joe Pinder, Stephen Ray and Cameron Smith completing the bronze standings. But then we come to the team standings. And as we can see here, Olympus XGD have taken the lead by a single point. It's the first time they lead this season over Impulse Racing. Impulse Racing are looking to strike back as soon as possible, with Empire Motorsport now on 106 points, leading the rest of the field. They have a 20-point advantage over Blackout Motorsport OPR, with Apex Missiles completing the top 5, and it's a further, 8 points to RPM, who in turn have an 11-point advantage over HFT, and DVR are only a further point behind their MP8 ahead of Effect Simulations and Peak Sim Racing, with the Danish outfit completing a top 10. UK Sim Racing admin team, the results have not gone their way so far in the team's championship, and so they sit in the best of the rest position P11. 6 points clear of A-Tech Racing purple, with Ring Fit Sim Racing, WS Racing Esports and Friends Racing by Connexus completing your top 15. Then to round off the top 20, it's all spares by Connexus ahead of 24 Hour Punty People, with A-Tech Racing Cyan, Clicks Racing and Satellite Racing through the P20 on 7 points there. Now further 4 behind it's Iron Brew by Connexus Motorsport, with Alimus by Connexus and Beak Sim Racing completing the team's championship standings. But now we come onto our circuit for today, and it is the Mount Panorama circuit. But we normally refer to it as Bathurst in reference to the local city located in the Australian state of New South Wales. And this circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thanks to them for their wonderful simulator and the brilliant track maps that come with it. This circuit consisting of 23 corners and 3.86 miles of tarmac is an absolutely ferocious circuit. And this image doesn't do it justice in the fact it's two-dimensional and it's flat. And well, one thing we can say for certain, this circuit is most definitely not flat. But as our drivers make their way around here today, they're going to have to contend with the fact that the vast majority of the corners are on the run over the mountain. And on top of that, with the run over the mountain being so narrow by default, and the straights themselves that take our drivers to and from the mountain being incredibly narrow as well, overtaking is challenging at the best of times, and it's normally relegated to the straights or the opening corner, Hell corner, and the last corner at Murray's. Alternatively, the chase chicane turns 20 through to 22. But as the drivers make their way on around here today, they'll charge their way up towards Hell corner at turn number 1, and coming through the left hand, it's then the long ascent up towards Griffiths Bend at turn number 2. They're heavily cambered. The right angle corner will definitely set our drivers up for success if they nail it right, as they roar their way uphill in towards the cutting at turns 3 and 4. There the circuit will dramatically narrow and they make their way over the mountain, starting on the rise out of the cutting at 4 and into Quarry Corner, the double right at turns 5 and 6, and then over the crest they'll go through 7, 8, 9 and into turn number 10. Turn number 10 being the infamous McPhillamy Park corner, where it's all about mediating your speed as you head into the apex and avoiding the apex curve and the exit curve, as otherwise you may find yourself out into the gravel and in trouble. But get it right, they'll make their way over Skyline and descend down through turn number 11 into 12, 13 and the dipper at turn number 14. The infamous dipper there will cause the rear of the car to kick out as the drivers drop into the corner and then slice their way through turns 15, 16 and 17, channel braking through the right hand kink into Forest Elba at turn number 18, and as they exit out the left hander they'll make their way through the kink of 19 to complete the run over the mountain and begin their descent back down towards the lowest point of the pit lane. But on the way they'll make their way down the Conrod Straight, the back straight as it's known, meanwhile the start finish straight and the run up towards Griffiths Bend being known as the Mountain Straight, and as they make their way down towards the chase and into the braking zone at turn number 21, they'll first have the kink at turn number 20 where we could expect 2, perhaps even 3 wide if we're lucky, and as they come down into the braking zone for turn number 21 it's all going to be hot on the anchors as they make their way from left into right, and coming out of 21 and into 22 it's the charge down towards Murray's Corner to complete the lap and do it all over again. And goodness me, I can tell you one thing, it's an absolutely scintillating lap, and with the circuit being so narrow we should point out that a special rule is in place today, which is that if our drivers are involved in an instant anywhere between turn 2 at Griffiths Bend and the exit of the turn 19 kink at Forest Elbow, they are required to tow the car off the circuit immediately in race conditions. In qualifying they do not need to, but when it's under race conditions, if a driver has an incident and starts pointing the wrong way, they must tow the car immediately to avoid a multi-car collision. Indeed, it only takes one car to get it wrong over the mountain and it can lead to tragedy. There's no doubt about that in the simulator, just as much as it can in the real world of motorsport, but hopefully we don't see that today. Now, as for our rules, as we can see, an open qualifying format shall be used, where drivers have 20 minutes to set their best possible time, as this is an endurance race round, so all the drivers are out on circuit. But do keep in mind, drivers may not reset to the pits outside of the pit lane. Doing so shall end their qualifying session. Indeed, we preach realism here at UK Sim Racing, and our drivers will need to come into the pits before they can reset to their pit box. Race-wise, there's a single 45 minutes endurance race, with the race commencing by a standing start. The endurance race grid, as this is a given, shall be set based on results of qualifying, and there are no mandatory pit stop requirements in the endurance race. So why would we see drivers come into the pits? Well, firstly, perhaps they've picked up 24 or more instant points and therefore they've picked up a drive-through penalty. Alternatively, they need to do repair work to the car, and we should point out that points awarded for this round shall be a combination of the traditional heat feature point format. So there's no extra points available today. Indeed, this round is weighted equally, just like the other rounds of the season. That's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're here for the racing. Let's take you through that schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC. And as we can see, in just about 3 to 4 seconds time, we're going to be getting that transition underway to go into qualifying, 20 minutes in duration, and then straight after we'll be heading to the grid for our 45 minutes endurance race. I do believe there might be a 5-minute break between the two sessions, and if so, that gives our drivers plenty of time to put race setups on the car, but that is going to be our schedule for today. And I can tell you one thing, it's a pleasant day here today in Australia. 23 degrees centigrade ambient temperature, 38 degrees centigrade track temperature. It's a hot surface right now, and well, with all our drives getting set and the Australian summertime coming about, given the fact it's in the southern hemisphere, meanwhile here in the UK we're starting to head into winter with us being in the northern hemisphere. It's warm, it's toasty, and those tyres and brakes are going to be absolutely piping hot. But the question is, who's going to be hot off the mark and take pole position today? Well, let's find out as our drivers immediately get underway in this qualifying session. As they start to make the way on through, we do have 3 new drivers on the grid today who we are going to introduce in due order, and you're going to be seeing them one by one very shortly. And indeed, welcome to our new drivers today, as we do have 31 drivers, I do believe, on the grid. We may even have a couple more than that since I last checked the entry numbers. But I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be a packed circuit here, and with 31 cars around here, when they start to spread out as we go racing, it is going to be all about these little pockets of batting, and qualifying so important at the Mount Panorama circuit, and the fact that overtaking so difficult by default. The idea is you want to qualify well, get yourself ahead of your rivals, and then just have a good run over the mountain, not have too much pressure on you, because keep in mind, when you are chasing somebody down, the pressure is on for you to stay incredibly close so you can get the run on your rival going on the mountain straight or down the Conrod straight. But therefore, staying so close, it means you lose that front end downforce, and the limited downforce these Porsche 992 Cup cars have, and therefore you start to find this car wants to understeer, and it becomes a nightmare to handle over the mountain potentially, and that's why you want to be ahead first and foremost, and that's why qualifying is really at the prime fault of our drivers. But coming from that fault onto our newcomers for today, we start off in the gold class here, and well, here may be a car that's quite familiar to you if you tune into our GT3 GTP multi-class league. It's running the colours of Racing Lab Esports, and making his way on down, wide on through, it's the number 13 driver there of what is Thomas Aspau. He's going to be in the gold class for the season, and as we make his way round here down towards what will be the Forest Elbow corner, welcome to him. Indeed, a very fast driver in a GT3 machine, also in a prototype machine, just as capable, so I get the feeling he'll be able to transition his skills quite comfortably here over into the Porsche 992 Cup car. We'll have to wait and see how the difference in terms of the lack of traction control and anti-lock braking system may just cause him to have to step up his game even more, but I'm sure he'll be capable of doing it. And behind him is another one of our newcomers. We do see everybody starting to queue up in the rundown Conrod, and that is our silver class driver from Racing Lab Esports, and well, none other than Matt Strand, and he's going to be in the number 25 car as he makes his way on down here. And welcome to Matt's as well, and well, Matt's a lovely chap, much like Thomas indeed. Both of them very pleasant Norwegian drivers, I can tell you that. Always happy to give you 5 minutes in the paddock, and as he makes his way out of the chase chicane there, down out 22 and in towards 23, he gets himself set up for his first flying lap, and we wish them both the best of luck today. But it's not just about them as newcomers, we do also have another newcomer in the silver class, and it's this man in at the RPM machine in the number 67. It is Dirk Bouts as he makes his way up the mountain straight here and getting himself set up for success as he charges up towards Griffiths Bend, and will Dirk Bouts add into the complement of Team RPM, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on today. I can tell you one thing, he might be a bit of a dark horse in the silver class championship, as whilst he can't in theory win the silver class championship, having only joined as of this round, he's a driver who can definitely take some key points off of other drivers, even at perhaps his own teammate and sister team rivals. And well, as we see there, the 35 of what is the 35 of Lee Holmes getting it very, very wrong. More Bounce there showing no hesitation, just going around the stricken Porsche and carrying on his merry way as he makes his way into the triple left at turns 7, 8 and 9 and into towards McPhilley Park at turn number 10 to complete the quartet of left-handers here and rolling on through. We wish him the best luck today as well as he gets himself all set, does the Belgian driver. But as he heads on through it, well, meanwhile, we do look towards the front of the qualifying field right now. He's right up there at the front, and well, it's our driver who's proven to be up the front pretty much the entirety of the last pair of races at Motorland Aragon. It is none other than Thomas Cope here as he makes his way down and in to the chase chicane, getting ready to go onto the brakes, and as he heads onto the anchors. Many drivers are absolutely excited for going racing today. Indeed, there were some who weren't too keen on the Motorland Aragon circuit last time out. Others absolutely loved it, but when everyone was told, remember, it's Bathurst week this week, it's an endurance race round, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, down in the driver's paddock, everybody was jumping up and down, enjoying it in the fact this is a combination you never hesitate to absolutely love. And as Thomas Cope crosses the timeline here, he shows his love for the circuit with 205.524, and well, he sets the bar quite high already, and rumour has it down the paddock we are looking at potentially what will be a high 204, a 204.8 for pole position today overall and in the gold class. And can anybody pull it off? That will be the challenge here. And I can tell you one thing, Cope and Hammer will be the two who will always go for it, given the fact they've proven to be the two who have always battled for that overall pole position this season so far, where there's a Cope and there's a Hammer and vice versa. But as he makes his way over the crest right now and down towards the chase on the Conrod. Well, it's going to be Hammer who's going to have to respond here, and we're already going purple in subsector 2. So that'll be the run through Griffiths Bend up towards the exit of the cutting and into Quarry Corner at turn number 6. Well, right now it does look as though Hammer here able to try and match Cope, but I think there's going to be a bit more time out there before we see the true figures of who's going to be on that potential pole position. Because of course, keep in mind this is only the first qualifying lap, and with a qualifying lap time here of just over 2 minutes, it does mean that our drivers have a limited number of laps available to them, as Hammer there goes P2, only a 10th off of Cope, and well, we are seeing a very close margin at this time around, and a 10th is minimal. That is fractional in terms of the gap between the two drivers there. If this was, say, for example, the Brands Hatch circuit or whatnot, we would say that's actually quite a sizable margin, the Brands Hatch GP circuit. But here in Australia, with the Bathurst circuit being so tricky to conquer, a 10th is nothing. You can find a 10th very quickly indeed, and we're already going much faster. You can see there, purple in subsectors 1 and 2, and also in subsector 4, it is Thomas Cope who makes the one down. And let's not forget, we've got another 29 drivers on this grid today, including your current provisional pole sitter in the Seal class of DDD Verlaming, as he makes his way on down Conrod. And right now, it does look as though here it's close between him and Jeremy Dover as well, the two DBR teammates here. Both have had great successes this season so far, as we do see Verlaming making his way in towards what is there, the chase chicane, coming through 21 and 22, and if he makes his way through it left into right here, or just parking off the road there, seems to be one of the, I believe that might be one of our bronze drivers. I can't quite discern who that is at the moment. We are trying to get an update there. I think that may have been Joe Pinder, in fact. Well, no, it was not Joe Pinder, he's elsewhere on the circuit, but it was while the drivers there deciding to park the car and bring it towards the pit lane, and will mean while DeBova goes faster, still on a 206.887, meanwhile Verlaming does not find a way to improve and therefore still sits a little bit further behind. But meanwhile, Lucas Romano launches himself into silver pole, P6 overall of 206.257. As Nicholas Knoll goes up to P2 there in the gold class and overall with 205.136, but Cope has found the first 204 of the day, a 204.935, and we're looking to improve that even further. But what about Thomas Asphaug as we wait for him to cross the line? In fact, I do believe Asphaug goes, what is their P8 overall? That's going to be P7 gold as he comes on through at turn number 1, and already we're starting to inch away towards the end of the first half of this qualifying session. But meanwhile, in the bronze battle for pole position supremacy here, it's Ben Kirby who currently sets a new provisional fastest in the bronze class for 208.271. That does put in the best part of what is there 1.1 seconds over what is Charlie Max in P20, but I think Max is trying to queue up a response of his own, and Max is on an improving lap so far. He's improved in all the subsectors, and as he comes down towards the final one here, the wonderful red and black machine in the bronze class heads towards the timeline. Can Max get the better response out of the turn here? No, he can't. He puts himself 1.5 tenths off. It's a 208.442, but it looks as though the cards are in the hands of Kirby right now. But again, qualifying's one part of the picture, and we know that track position is critical, but at the same time, we can't guarantee just because the driver's on pole in their class they're going to win the race. Indeed, if we were to place bets on that every single time, we would be losing at the bookies for a simple reason. We have seen some huge upsets from pole position this season, but as we do see Max making his way up towards turn number 2. Meanwhile, Mark Canmore in at the Rexy machine, that wonderful car, of course, inspired by the livery being run by one of the Porsche 911 RSR GTE teams, featured at the 24-hour Le Mans this year in the Centenary, and that livery staying all the way through the FIA WEC World Endurance Championship. Well, right now, Roxy there, the male of the two dinosaur Porsches, albeit Rexy not on the grid here, but right now doing everything it can in order to try and go faster and faster in the capable hands of Mark Cadmore, and he puts himself P3 in the bronze class, P22. But we still have a sizable cohort of drivers yet to get a lap on the board, including Stephen Ray, and it was Stephen Ray who we saw going slowly along towards the pit lane when we did have some other drivers making their way through earlier on the camera shot, particularly when we were looking at the likes of Jeremy DeBova and also at Lucas Romano. But as we do see it, Ray heading on down. Meanwhile, new fastest lap in his qualifying session, a 204.770, so the barrier of the 204.8 we talked about already being shattered, and it's Nicholas Knoll who has set a fastest lap, as meanwhile Ray backing off there, being quite the gentleman he is, Ray, and I think he just doesn't feel comfortable with the car right now. He is on an out lap, to be fair, but I think he also wants to buy himself as much clear space on the circuit, but he's got to be careful about slowing down too often for the simple reason he will lose tyre temperature, and that can really scupper the first lineup he gets in. And remember, the tyres on these cars normally do take the out lap plus also an additional lap to get up to peak temperature. temperature before you can go full aggression, and that's why we do see in the shorter qualifying sessions, in the heat qualifying sessions of 8 minutes when we have the heat feature pair rounds, in that 8 minutes we normally see the fastest drivers opt to go for a single lap. They risk it all and decide to just go for that one, so it's the outlap plus the warm-up. But meanwhile, Ashton Hereford moves himself up to P6 there on a 205.749. Meanwhile, much more local to this circuit in terms of our drivers, albeit out of New Zealand, as he makes his way up through turn at number 1. It's none other than Corey Lazarus, and right now 6/10 off of Noel's provisional pole time, but Lazarus going strong here, and I think he'll treat this one as effectively a home lap race today, and the Blackout Motorsport OPR drivers will all be absolutely pushing hard to try and go as fast as they can and impress on home soil, or close to home soil we should say, as he heads in towards turn at number 2. We very shortly get an on-board lap with one of our drivers as they take to circuit. Oh, good speed, and that's got a bit wrong there. That's the Clicks Racing Machine. I know that's not the Clicks Racing Machine, my apologies. That is the Peak Sim Racing Machine of Casper Turnstead, almost into the wall on the exit of turn number 2, but catching the car just in time. But as he brings it back out the pit lane very shortly, in fact, he won't be allowed to bring it out the pit lane given the fact he's towed, and therefore he will be told that his most recent lap will be his best lap, and that is going to be the surprise that will catch out many here today, in the fact they're not allowed to tow to the pits. Well, from them, we look to Nicholas Knowles, your current provisional pole sitter. The Impulse Racing driver heads to the timeline, and let's jump on board with the number 917 as he takes us around for another flying lap. Making his way in to turn at number 1, braking at 80 metres from corner apex in 3rd gear, and now getting back on the throttle as soon as possible to charge up the hill. He just set a new fast lap for a 204.741. Can he go for a 204.6? We're about to see as he accelerates up towards top gear in a quick fire succession, already up to 5th gear and over the rise, and down he goes. Kyle going slowly there on the right side, picks up the distance, so he sweeps down to left hand side there to break into Rivers Bend, breaking 120 metres from corner apex down to 3rd gear, and as he makes his way out as close as he dares to get to that outside wall, as he now heads in towards the cutting, now turning in full commitment and onto the brakes as early as you can, straightening the steering wheel as he goes to the left-hander, tight to all, back on the throttle in 2nd gear, and now going through Corey Bender, turns 5 and 6, and as he comes all the way through the double right into left-hander, it's blind over the left-hander at turn number 7. You've got to just feel the force, as they say, and as he makes his way into turn number 8, carrying a bit of a scaffold line there, giving another driver having to return to the racing line. Well, Noel manages to carry the speed on through, going into McPhillamy Park, and as he comes out of turn number 10, in towards 11 he goes. He's got a car in front that's designed to steer clear, and as he makes his way on down, that's why the Racing Lab esports machines, but Noel coming into turn number 13 and into the dipper, and in he plunges in 2nd gear, now flat out once again, going through 15, in towards 16, listen in. You can hear a lift there as he trail brakes his way out of 17 into Forest Elba 18, as close as possible towards 2nd gear, runs it as close as possible to the exit wall as well. Indeed, a theme run here, which is you've got to get close to those walls to be on pole, and as he makes way with the Kingdom 19, that's the mountain section complete, and now it's the run all the way down towards the chase by Conrad, picking up the toe there of one of the RPM machines, and as he heads upwards of 170 miles an hour here, as he gets ready to break through the King D, breaking down from 171 miles an hour, breaking 140 metres on corner apex, going on through the left into right here, battling with power oversteer as he collects the car to get out of 21 through 22, and now down towards the final corner onto the brakes here, which not been improving that for the most part. But I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, as he comes through Murray Corner at 2nd gear, it has been a fritter of a lap, and this goes to show you just how strong Nicholas Knowles' performances can be. As he makes way across the line, he does improve again. It's a 204.681, and I suspect if he hadn't been compromised over the mountain to a small degree, going through turns 8 and 9, could that have been a 204.5? Well, Knowles will be the only one who knows that on his relative, and Delta, indeed, the team will be telling him right now what's possible, but Knowles striking strong here, and could we see a new name on pole position this season? Indeed, all of our qualifying pole positions have either gone the way of Philip Hammer or Thomas Cope this season, but could we see Knowles become the 3rd driver to take a pole position overall? Well, we're not too far away from finding out, only 6 minutes on the clock plus overtime. As he makes his way on through into the cutting here. Well, from history in the gold class, we also do have the ongoing battle back and forth with Ben Kirby. Has had a spin there by looks of things, coming up the final corner, a lot of smoke being kicked up. That's tyre smoke where he's had to spin the car around after a slide, and well, Ben Kirby getting himself back together, but has that compromised the tyres? He'll need to do a full lap if he wants to return to the pits and put a new set of boots on the car, but the problem is now he's not got long before this qualifying session comes to an end. Well, if he comes in at the end of this, he'll only have 4 minutes left on the clock, in fact 3 minutes by the time he's left the pit lane, so that will mean that he'll only be able to do the outlap and then one flying lap, and that may not be enough in order to get the tyres warmed up and go go all in, but still, when you do have an advantage of a temp over Charlie Max, it is minimal here. So I think Kirby's got to go for it, as otherwise Max maybe out still pole position away. Meanwhile, on the pit lane, we do have Alistair Hatcher and also Cameron Smith and also Stephen Ray, who's recently left the pit lane, yet to also get a time on the board. Matt Strand and Navarro de Bova. So we've got 5 drivers without times. We've got 34 drivers in attendance here today, and 29 of them have got representative laps on the board as Darracott moves into P11 there for what is Effect Simulations. We do look to the very colourful liveried machine, and on 206.625, I think he'll feel as though there's a bit more out there, given the fact he is 4 tenths or so off of Lee Holmes right now in that battle to be P10 on the grid on that 5th row. But he powers his way up the hill and in towards turn number 2. Looking from him to your silver pole sitter right now, it is Lucas Romano, and Romano in a world of his own there. He may be 1.1 seconds off of the pole time overall set by Nicholas Nold, but in return he does have the best part of a second over second place silver driver on that qualifying provisional grid, and Marcel Fridge, who would start P13. And Romano right now really trying to pick up the mantle that's been left behind by Felvers in that run. And well, speaking of Kyle Felvers, indeed, do we have the driver out on the circuit here today? I don't think we do have Kyle Felvers in attendance here in Australia. I can't quite see him there on the timing sheet or indeed on our data sheet, but Kyle Felvers was your driver of the day last time out in Motorland Aragon for picking up 50% of the vote, and indeed everybody seemed to love Kyle Felvers' absolutely brilliant battling at the front of the field, particularly in the feature race. And Kyle, if you're sat there right now, indeed your dad Adrian's tuning in, congratulations to you, Kyle, for bringing home driver of the day in Spain in rounds 6 and 7. And well, who will be our driver of the day today? That's the big question that we will find out. But meanwhile, as we look to the chat there, we do say hello to Tim Coxmead, who's absolutely hyped, and we also say hello to Motor Magpie there, who has got the question, what happened? And indeed, well, plenty is going to happen here today. Motor Magpie, as we speak of things that have happened, that's Grunstrom into the wall there and being towed coming out of what was Quarry Corner. That was on the exit of 5 into 6. So Grunstrom having a major shunt to the wall. Well, he's going to try and leave the pit lane by looks of things, so I think he'll then be given the reminder, which is you have towed back to the pits, and therefore you won't be able to put another lap in. And meanwhile, Philip Hammer going to crucial pole. It's only by 2.5 hundredths, but that's enough, and it's going to be a 204.655. And Nold right now will look to try and respond, but this could be an impulse racing 1-2 here today on the qualifying grid. And can Coke find a way to get back into this with 3 minutes left on the clock? Well, time is ticking away here. I think right now it is going the way of Nold and Hammer as they make the way on around here. But meanwhile, and speaking of surprises, well, right now Roxanne Marshall will be trying to spring some surprises in the race as she makes her way down Conrod, currently P22, or what equates to P9 in the silver class in qualifying on an outlap. So going to be giving it one more go before all is said and done. So a lot of the drivers here still trying to get the proverbial ultimate lap time on the board and leaving it as late as possible in the day in this qualifying session. And we can understand why, given the fact this circuit being rubbered in more and more every time somebody turns a lap. We've got Nicholas Nold into the pit lane, and that will end his qualifying session. He has come in by natural courses, as meanwhile Marshall going a bit slowly there. I think letting when is Sean Cranley's, well, no, that's not Sean Cranley's watch. That would have been, that's going to be the car from 24-hour punty people of Stephen Ray, I do believe, that made its way through. In fact, no, I'm getting my drivers mixed up here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me correct myself. That was Joe Pinder. Thinking of Ray and Pinder and getting the two of them mixed up here. Easy to do, I suppose. And as he does make his way through turn number 10 right now, we can't mistake the fact the number 97 driver, as he makes his way through McPhillamy here, currently trying to get a lap on the board and running out of time to do so here as he makes his way weaving on down into the dipper. As he comes on through there, a bit of a lock-up on the front left brake, the rear of the car not settling down for him, and right now Ray really struggling in his qualifying session. It may be a back of the grid at a start for him if he can't get an indicative time on the board. As he makes his way out of Forest Elbow, still trying to get himself set up. He will have one more lap after this, so we do have to keep in mind he's still got an option to go here. It's not going to be over when he gets to the finish line this time around. But meanwhile, speaking of things that are starting to look a little bit more over and over, as this is Thomas Cove, he is on his penultimate qualifying lap here if he's got the fuel for another one. And keep in mind, of course, when we were at Detroit a couple of weeks ago, he was already on pole position when he had another lap lined up that was even faster by 3 or 4 tenths, only to run out of fuel with only about 150 metres to go before the timing line. Once Hammer continues to hold at the top, he is going on to his final flying lap himself. Will Cove right now try and look for an improving lap, and I can tell you that in subsectors 3 and 4 he has improved on his previous best, but elsewhere on the lap he has not improved so far. So this may not be enough here to launch Cove back onto that front throw, given the fact he's got to close down 1.5 tenths to Nold, and it's a further 2.5 hundredths to close the delta to Hammer. But if he can chisel away at one, he may be able to do the same for the other, but we'll have to wait and see. As meanwhile, Nathan Foster, the Empire Motorsport driver, he sneaks his way back up to P4 and a 205.208, and that's his qualifying session done. He goes on there at Hell Corner. He decides enough's enough, and as he gets ready to make his way back to the pit lane, meanwhile, Oisin Hereford giving it one last roll of the dice here as he dances his way for what is Olympus X Geodesic, the Geodesic racing driver, as he comes on through. Thomas Cope has improved, by the way. Oh, goodness me, and very close to, well, that's as close as you want to get, with a rub there coming out of Terminal 5, pushing the limits. Well, I think Hereford may have just backed the car off slightly there, and that may have compromised that. We don't know what damage on that rear left suspension, but there's the sign, ladies and gentlemen. He pulls over, and that is his qualifying session complete. Oisin Hereford will not be improving any further. Meanwhile, Philip Hammer has parked up. He thinks he's got it done. We'll have to wait and see. Cope has parked up as well, so Cope will not be improving, and it is Philip Hammer who takes pole position, so it's not a new name at the top of the standings unless we see a surprise move here from Tim Darracott with the checkered flag waving. But Philip Hammer is going to be your pole sitter otherwise, and he'll be joined on the front row by teammate Nicholas Nold, with Thomas Cope starting P3 and then Nathan Foster P4. But Darracott right now still trying to find a bit more time out there. And in the other classes, Lucas Romano currently P7 overall in the silver class. He'll be your silver pole sitter, as DDD Blaming has just made his way into the pit lane, so he won't be improving from what will be an effective P2. Just get ahead of Marcel Fritsch by the best part of which half a tenth. Meanwhile, we also do have Nicholas Gronstrom making his way down towards what is here the chase chicane, as he comes on through in the very reflective livery, I must say, of the 999 machine. Or definitely an absolute stunner of a livery there, I must say, as he comes on down. But can Grunstrom find a way to inch a little bit more time? Can he get ahead of one or two of the bronze drivers, Max and Kirby, as he makes his way across the line? It's going to be a slight improvement, but not enough to elevate him up position. He stays P22 on a 207.586 now. But Grunstrom, we feel as though he's got work to do in the race. Meanwhile, as we look from him to some drivers, we're coming towards the end of the lap. Stephen Ray crosses the line, and as he does so, he's currently P31. He does improve by 3 tenths there, but he'll stay at P31 at 214.375. He's a little bit off the pace of the field, but still Ray gradually learning, and that's what the bronze class is all about. It's about drivers who are making their first steps potentially in the Porsche Cup machine, or just coming to grips with rookies effectively. And then arguably you could say your silver class is your pro-ams, or what would be your midfield pack, and then your gold class would be your pros. But as we do see Pinder just wind his way on down there, very slow lap. Meanwhile, Tim Darracott heading in to the pit lane, as I do believe looking out my content booth window. So this is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, as Pinder is on a cool-down lap as we're to understand it. So after 20 minutes of qualifying here in Australia, it is Philip Hammer on pole, ahead of Nicholas Nold on that front race, and Impulse Racing at 1-2 for the front row of the gold class and overall. And then a P8 on the fourth row of the grid, it will be Lucas Romano, your silver pole sitter, with DDD Blaming second place, silver P13. And in the bronze class, it is Ben Kirby who strikes back with pole position, P19 overall, by an advantage in the end of only a tenth, if that, over Charlie Max's rival, who'll be starting P21, with Matt Strand, the debutant in the silver class of Racing Lab Esports, putting himself between the two of them. So we have definitely got a major race on the cards here today, and whilst there haven't been any two major surprises, in fact perhaps the biggest surprise we could say is the late charge from Nathan Foster for P4 in the gold class, and overall in terms of qualifying, we may have a quite regular qualifying order in terms of what we've come to see over recent weeks. But I can tell you one thing, that's not going to take away from the thrilling aspect of the racing when we do go green flag racing here, ladies and gentlemen. And well, qualifying now comes to its closing checker flag, and we are only moments away from getting ready to make our way to the grid. But as we get ready to make our way to the grid, of course, we do have a 5-minute warm-up period for our drivers, and this 5 minutes, of course, gives them the opportunity to take a comfort break and also get the right racing set up on the car before they do go green flag racing. So whilst we do have a brief breather, what we'd like to say is that if you have been enjoying the racing this season so far in the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup Season 8, as brought to you on iRacing, available live on the twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing Twitch channel, and of course also available on demand on catch-up on the official UK Sim Racing YouTube channel. If you've been enjoying the series and perhaps you've been wondering how you can potentially support UK Sim Racing, did you know there's a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UK Sim Racing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, including Swilly Omega Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere, and also SRC Driver Academy. And if you do head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk today, and that website will appear on screen as of now, and there it is in its full splendour. Well, in the top right corner of our website, there is a link to our Discord. Now, why would you want to click on that link? Well, firstly, if you ever want to be part of the UK Sim Racing Discord, whether it's just to be part of the community, alternatively be able to race in our events, and of course it's a mandatory requirement to be part of the UK Sim Racing Discord in order to race in our one-off events, our leagues, or anything in between due to the pre-race driver briefings. That's number one place to go to, is the official UK Sim Racing Discord. But also on top of that, and perhaps more relevant to today, is the fact that a number of our affiliates do provide discount codes which are only available on the official UK Sim Racing Discord. And if you do use one of those codes as part of your purchase, well, it's a win for you because of the simple reason you get a discount and therefore you're not paying as much as you would at regular retail price. But it's also a win for the UK Sim Racing community as a whole, because we're a non-profit organisation here at UK Sim Racing, and that means that every penny we make from our affiliates purchases, i.e. the kickback we receive from your purchase, it will go into funding future series, including future instalments of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup, the GTP GT3 Multiclass League, and plenty more we have planned as we wind down towards the end of 2023, and we have got a full season of racing to come in 2024 here on iRacing, and particularly with the continued elements of what is rain potentially coming to the simulator next year, and also other classes of machinery, and also updates to GT3 class machinery. Indeed, for those unaware, there was recently a blog post put out by iRacing to say that the Audi R8 Evo 2 will be going to the GT3 class in the near future. Well, we have got plenty of leagues in store as we go from strength to strength here at UK Sim Racing, and we'd love to have you as part of that journey. So do remember, a little purchase via our affiliates can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing, and what can go a very long way today in a championship campaign is if our drivers have a stellar day here today in Australia. But who will be the one to be able to achieve that? Will it be Philip Hammer? Will he be able to bring to an end, an abrupt end, the run of victories of Thomas Cope from Olympus XGD6 Impulse Racing here? Or could we see the likes of Matt Strand perhaps bring a surprise and make his way carving through the field for Racing Lab Esports? Norwegian driver starting quite far down in the silver class, and he'll know that the man to beat today is this man, Lucas Romano, with a phenomenal pole lap, 1 second faster than anybody else in the class, and the Belgian driver does seem to be very confident with regards to his tenacity for pole positions and his outright pace, and really there's been nothing to fault him on so far this season. But alternatively, in the bronze class, we've got the rivalry of Ben Kirby and Charlie Max. It continues to go from round to round. Well, all that and plenty more is coming up soon, and I can see that Tim Cox Media in the Twitch chat asking who thinks we're going to see a big pile up across the mountain on the first lap. Medmo saying yes we will. Jock Muir there waving his hands there with the emoji, and I do believe that means the hey guys emoji there. I think that might be putting a hand up to say I believe there might be a bit of a pile up, and we also see Motor Magpie there with what is a bit of an emoji to say somebody ripping their hair out, and indeed it could be a bit of a stressful start to many a race. Well, hopefully we won't see too big a pile up over the mountain. Indeed, we hope we don't see one at all, because we never want to see major incidents, but it is the way of racing here at Bathurst, and indeed you only have to look at more recent instalments of what is the intense endurance racing atmosphere at Bathurst, whether it be the 12-hour endurance race in the GT3 class, or alternatively the traditional Bathurst 1000, to see how it all plays out between those V8 supercars. A lovely roar of the engines, but we haven't got V8s here today. Indeed, we've got flat sixes from Germany, and the Porsche Cup car should not be underestimated, but it's lovely roar. And as Tim Darracott makes his way on down through the left hand of their turn at number 19, we are only now 40 seconds away from going to green flag conditions. As Emil Koopmans parks up there, he gets his way off of the circuit. The Dutchman just getting a practice lap in, and one driver who we haven't talked about really, albeit we've seen a bit of him in the qualifying session, Forsten Severd, the Ring Sim Racing driver, once again putting himself right in the mid-pack of the top 10 of the silver class in the qualifying session. But can he find a way to launch his way up the order? And well, this is definitely a circuit whereby pace and consistency go hand in hand. And if you're not the fastest driver, but you can keep it consistent over the entire 45 minutes, you could be on to a winner. Well, who is going to be our winner, ladies and gentlemen? And as the checker flag falls, it is time for us to find out here. It's time for us to head to the grid for what is going to be a hotly anticipated 45 minutes of racing in round number 8 of UK Sim Racing at Porsche Cup Season 8. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid for the standing start, this is how they'll line up for round 8 of the season. It is Philip Hammer from Impulse Racing who takes pole position golden overall ahead of Nicholas Nold, his teammate, for an Impulse Racing at 1-2. Behind them on the grid on row number 2, it's Thomas Cope for Olympus XGDC and Nathan Foster there for Empire Motorsport. On row number 3, it's Corey Lazarus, Blackout Motorsport OPR and Apex Missers Emil Koopmans, followed up on row number 4 by Oisin Hereford for Olympus XGDC and Lucas Romano, your silver pole sitter for RPM. Behind them on row number 5 to complete the top 10, it's Simon C. Bamber for UK Sim Racing Admin Team and Lee Holmes at ATEC Racing Team Purple. Then outside the top 10, starting best of SP11, it's Tim Darracott on row 6 for Effect Simulations, with that row being completed by Daviton Thomas Aspaug for Racing at Lab Esports. Then on row at number 7, it's DDD Laming for DBR, joined by his silver rival, Marcel Fritsch for WS Racing Esports. And then we have Jeremy DeBow for DBR, joined on row at number 8 by Casper Tunstead for Peak Sim Racing. Now on row number 9, it's Dirt Bouts for RPM and Forsten Saphir. And well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to bring that to a hold, as here come the lights. It's time for the race. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the 45 minutes of Bathurst. And as Hammer gets a good start of the line, look at Nold immediately coming off Cope as Cope comes on strong, but as they make the way into turn number 1, Cope's not able to find a way through, and now he's going to try to blaze his way on past up towards Griffiths Bend. But as they all make the way through the opening corner, Hell Corner not catching out anybody so far, everyone's safely away as they charge their way up the mountain straight, and Cope side by side with Nold already. Nold having to dig in here, wanting to give Hammer every chance to break away, and as they make their way into the braking zone, well, right now Nold goes all in, Cope made to come back. They both go a little bit deep, but it's Nold who goes incredibly deep. It's a bump to the wall as well, and as they do, Nathan Foster comes on through. The places start to pour, and as they do, it's going to be Nold who falls a long way back as Corey Lazarus takes a quick look up the inside there into the cuts, and he can't quite find it, but as they all make their way on through turn number 4 and onto the rise now through 5, 6, everybody calms on down. Meanwhile, Chris Eddersford here a little bit further back, looking for a move up the inside of Roxanne Marshall. Marshall gaining some ground early on here, going a little bit wide there, some power over still on the exit. What is the cutting, and that's the cold tyres coming into effect early on in this race, but now it's single file over the mountain as everybody waits for their next opportunity, which will be down Conrad. As they come roaring on through here, the score is for Lee Holmes. Right now he's trying to stay ahead of Tim Darracott. Neither driver gaining or losing a place at the start of this race. So they head over Skyline and down into the descent here for the Dipper. Diddy blaming Luke gaining 1 place overall as he's made his way up the order into P12, and as the drivers all come on through the Dipper and now in towards Forest Elbow, where everybody here is starting to get tantalisingly close to one another. Forsten Speck gaining 1 place ahead of Dirt Bouts after the opening few quarters, and his next target will be Casper Tunstead here, with Tunstead caught up behind Thomas Aspaug, who's had a 4-start, dropped 3 places overall. But meanwhile, looking back up the order, ladies and gentlemen, we look back towards the gold top 10. As we can see, Emil Koopmans right now, neither there nor neither when chasing after Corey Lazarus and Nathan Foster. With Lazarus and Foster getting increasingly close to one another here. It's going to be Lazarus looking up the inside. He's going all in for the move for what will be P3 into the chase, and as he does so, it's a nice move. Foster's off onto the grass as he gradually aims to rejoin. That's a long endeavour there as he rejoins now, and he drops all the way down to P8, taking the safe approach. But meanwhile, it's not over here for Nold, battling up with Oisin Hereford, defending on the inside. We've got a current of bits. That's Simon Bamber coming on in. I'm not sure if that was perhaps a full start from Simon Bamber, and therefore he's been called into the pits for a drive-through penalty. But as they make the way onto lap number 2, well, right now Nold putting as much pressure as possible onto Koopmans, but in fact finding more pressure from behind the former Oisin Hereford as Lucas Romano, the silver leader right now, P7 overall. He's got Nathan Foster, Lee Holmes and Tim Darracott right behind him as they make the way onto lap number 2. But as they make the way up the hill once again, meanwhile we look back to Sean Cranley swashbuckling side by side. That's contact with Joe Pinder, the 224-hour punty people teammates, going to blows to one another, and this is not what you want to see. Meanwhile, it's 3 wide. That's going to be Sean Dobie on the outside. They all come together, and as they do, Frieda's not going to do it the best of the times up the mountain straight, and both Dobie and Pinder in the walls as they make the way up to speed, and Sean Cranley swashbuckling wounded front end of his Porsche, which disaster there for the 2 teammates. And I think right now they might be getting a debrief after racing the team principal, and they might have a few words echoed their way. But as they make their way through 2 and up towards Frieda, I have to forget that for now, and Sean Cranley was able to survive the contact, but he's got Mark Cadmore and Cameron Smith getting close. We see that Cadmore have a lock up on the front left brake, and therefore now has to try and get the car back together, as it's going to be Cameron Smith trying to put the pressure on here as we jump on board the P27 driver. But as they make their way through the right into left, you can see that Cadmore not comfortable in the car at this point in time. Cameron Smith the faster of the 2 drivers there, but he's got to wait, and that's the problem here. There's no rule place to overtake until there's an instant like that, and it's going to be Cadmore into the wall, but Smith backs out there, in that Cannibals on a wide line to McPhillamy, but not enough space to go for the move on momentum. And that's when you have to be so patient here. And Cameron Smith really being the epitome of British patience. So he makes his way down into Dipper, coming on through the left-hander now. And will Cannibal able to open the gap back up with the damage he's picked up when they hit to the wall at turn number 9. I wouldn't be surprised here if Cannibal's going to lose about 2 to 3 miles now on the run down Conrad. As they come down through Forest Elbow, no change between these two at the moment. Meanwhile, we can see there Charlie Max, your second place bronze driver, under pressure from Roxanne Marshall. Marshall trying to go for another place here, trying to make some early progress as the 24-hour Punty People driver, but she looks up the inside into the King. It's now going to be the outside versus Max into the chase. Onto the brakes they go, and Max gets very close to the back of Kirby there. I think Kirby are just braking a bit too early perhaps, and therefore Max being caught out almost then, almost rear-ending his teammate as they make their way down towards turn number 23. At least the camera angle would suggest that, but it might have been a different story from on board Max's car. And as they make the way through the left-hander at turn 23 onto lap number 3, where it's been a thrilling opening 2 laps, but here's how the lay of the land is after 2 laps of race at Bathurst. It's Hammer ahead of Cope, followed by Lazarus in P3, then Coopens P4, Noel P5, Hoyerford P6, Silver Leader Romano P7, Foster P8, Holmes P9, Darricott P10, and then Verlaming in P11 with your bronze leader Ben Kirby at P18, a bit further back in the camera shot here as they all roar their way up towards Cruz Bend once again. And again, Marshall is not giving in. She's going up the inside this time, and Max is being made to hold position. Meanwhile, Chris Edisford here, looking for the move on the inside of Humberstone, goes all in for it, and that's going to be for P9 in the steel class here. But Humberstone's not giving in yet, or has he? In fact, he does back off there. He lifts off in the run into the cutting and decides to let the place go. As we look on board at the rear end of Chris Edisford's car, almost being sucked into the grill was the camera of what was going in Humberstone's car as they make the way out of the corner and over the rise they go at turn number 7. You can see here Edisford, now that he's ahead, he's not able to break away. In fact, a bit hesitant going through turns 6 and 7, and I think the car just being a little bit of a worry as they make the way through the left-hander. But as they head on through the corners and rolling on down, as they charge away on through the braking zones very shortly, and over the lines they go. And we have a bit of a correction there in regards to Pinder and what is, I believe, Sean Cranny-Swash being teammates. Then we do apologise for getting that wrong. I believe they're not in fact teammates. But meanwhile, we have had a tow to the pits further up the road, and that is from Roxanne Marshall. And well, goodness me, what exactly has happened to Roxanne Marshall? And also Forsten Svet, 2 drives have been towed to the pits practically at the same time. Not quite sure what's happened, but meanwhile, looking up the inside for the lead of this race, it's Cope versus Hammer here as they battle their way through the chase chicane, and as they make the way down towards the braking zone for what will be Murray's corner, where it's going to be Cope on the inside, meanwhile Hammer on the outside. Into left-hander they go, door rubbing aplenty here, and Cope does get ahead by a small margin, but it's not enough as they make the way into lap number 4, and well, Cope's got a nose ahead into Hell Corner, but the problem is he's not shaking Hammer at any point in the race as they make the way through. But in the end, Hammer does back off here, but he'll gain the toe now as they make the way up the mountain straight. And you have to wonder just how much straight line speed is in the car of Hammer as we jump on board with the Impulse Racing driver P2 as he tries to find a bit of a way in here, but can he do so? The gap is closing, 2.5 tenths, but he's still got half the straight to go, or has he? No, in fact he's got much less than that as he makes his way onto the brakes going into the right-hander, and it looks as though Cope may have got this move done for the lead, but can they now break away? That'll be the next change that faces the Olympus XGDC driver as they make the way on through into the cutting here for the 4th time of asking. And as they do, we take a look back at how that move all started. This is how it all began. It was on lap number 3, coming down through the kink off of Conrad as they made the way into the chase here. Cope peeling out to the inside, Hammer seeing it coming and deciding to hang it outside to inside there, with Cope taking a lot of apex curve, that unsettling the car. But as they made the way down towards the next braking zone here, brilliant side-by-side racing between the two of them. Great racing respect shown between the 2 championship rivals. And as they came through the left-hander, a little bit of a rub there as Cope's car fell off of the apex curve, and was to be expected, but they both kept the racing up. And by the time they got towards turn number 1, Cope nose ahead, inside line as well, and he was able to dictate the authority into the apex and onwards, with Hammer not having the counter-attack from that point. But as we return to live pictures back on board with Philip Hammer still close as they make the way up towards what is the Conrad Straight once again. And well, we do have that question there from Medmo with regards to Roxanne Marshall, what exactly happened. Well, we are going to get to a replay of that very shortly. In fact, here is a replay of what happened to Roxanne Marshall on lap number 3. So making the way down through into the dipper here, and I suspect the rear of the car is going to let go at some point. Well, in fact, they're very close to the rear of the number 19 of Ben Kirby. Now, I'm not quite sure whether that perhaps triggered off the instant. We're going to jump on board with Marshall for this, albeit not implicating Kirby at all. I think Marshall may have carried a bit too much speed down, getting very close to the back of Kirby into the dipper and having to back the speed off there. Kirby not having enough speed, and Marshall in the end in having to back off, not carrying enough speed into the dipper to settle down the rear of the car and immediately turn to the pits. That's the worst thing you can have happen. And then what happened to Forsten Severe? A similar time, made his way down through the dipper and now going into Forest Elbow. Is the rear going to let go here under trail braking? No, not quite. He just goes straight on that, and I think in the end he couldn't get the car to stop without fear of locking up. And you can see the car actually started to spear its way towards the inside wall, and I think he had to swing the car and in the end put the car towards the outside wall and tow it off the circuit immediately as per the rules. But both drivers there having a disastrous moment, and Forsten Severe retiring from the race due to the impact to the wall, and I believe the car has not been able to be recovered in a state whereby it's repairable to go racing once again, which is very unfortunate for the German driver, who we're looking forward to seeing how he can get on today. But meanwhile, whilst all this has played out, we also do take a look back at what happened between Joe Pinder and Sean Dobie on lap number 2 in that freeway fight between them and Sean Cranley Swash. And here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen, and as we can see, and the Elimas by Connexus driver, well there, oh goodness me, and well, I think Sean Cranley Swash would say, where can I disappear to, guys? Because it did look as though they both squeezed it from the opposite sides from that camera angle. We take a look back from what was the chopper camera here as they made their way out with Dobie on the outside there, and Cranley Swash in the end starting to lose momentum. Pinder being turned across the front of Swash, and then it was essentially for Dobie to be picked up, and the Elimas by Connexus driver, who we have incorrectly reported multiple times as being part of 24-hour Bunty people, when the number 22 driver losing out. A very unfortunate moment there, and we hope to see him back on the circuit soon. Indeed, he already is back on the circuit, I do believe, down in P31, and Sean Dobie just heading P30. But with the major instance, the opening couple of laps covered, we now do return to the live racing here, ladies and gentlemen. And looking from our leaders, we have the ongoing battle of Lee Holmes versus Nathan Foster. And as they make their way down towards turn number 20, in towards the braking zone they go soon. And as they roar their way on through, it's going to be Foster looking for the move here. And Holmes has found his way gradually on through. And in fact, to give you the sense of scale here in terms of how many gains have been made from our drivers, we look to the left-hand side of your screen, and there you can see the relative gains being made. And speaking of gains being made, here's one to be made by Cameron Smith as he battles side by side with Sean Cranley Swash, coming down towards turn number 21. And Smith around the outside, he's got the inside now, and Swash backing off there after hitting the apex curb slightly. I think Finn is over the damage he's got to the car. The car is unsettled by default now, and Cameron Smith gaining another place. It's an important place to be gained. It's for overall position only, but it now puts him on track to hunt down Craig Shield for what could be third place in the bronze class, and we're his first podium of the season if he's able to convert it by the checker flag. But speaking of at the beginning, oh goodness me, and Sean Cranley Swash has gone round there on the exit of the final corner, and well, what exactly triggered that off is the question. I think we're going to take a look back at this. Indeed, we have a replay, and as he came down towards the braking zone here, well, I think he might have just taken a little bit too much exit curve as he came on through, clips the apex curve, and no, in fact, just clipping the apex curve and trying to get the power down, and the rear of the car's let go, and opting to tow to the pits did the Canadian driver in the 117. Returning to your live racing pictures again, ladies and gentlemen, and well, Charlie Max now under pressure for P17 overall, and this is Casper Tunstead who's right behind him. We're not even a third of the way into this race yet, and we've definitely had plenty of drama from start to finish, and well, now it's going to be Tunstead who's all over the back of Max. He makes about turn 6 and 7, so much so he's literally slivering everywhere, and well, that's not to say, as the infamous internet meme goes, that it's Randy Orton slivering. Indeed, it's Casper Tunstead today, and I don't think there's going to be an RKO out of nowhere, but there could be an overtake out somewhere very soon as he makes his way down through what is the left into right, and as he comes in towards the dip here, Tunstead very close, but as he tries to find a way in order to get this move done, a bit too close for comfort there coming to the dipper, and the Danishman now losing some time as he makes his way into Forest Elbow. But the good news for him is the fact that with Max not really having the effective tow of Kirby, with the gap between the two drivers of the bronze class being a second, it does mean that Tunstead can now try and close up as much as humanly possible. But this could also be quite telling as well. If we see Tunstead not gain as much perhaps as he should in the tow here, it might be an indicator he's running a lot more rear wing compared to his rival, and some drivers do opt to run a high amount of rear wing or high downforce on their Porsche Cup cars here at Bathurst for the simple reason it provides better rear stability on the car car over the mountain. The downside of it is, however, it does cost you multiple miles an hour on each of the long straights around here, and in the toe it means you can't close up as much. But as he makes his way in towards turn number 23, getting ready to go onto the brakes, when we can see the biggest gainer of them all so far today is none other than Cameron Smith, who's up into what is P23 from a P34 starting from the back of the grid, and will the Briton from with number 23 privateer outfit absolutely on the charge here and trying to find more places. Meanwhile, the biggest loser at the start of this race, Simon Bamber, dropping all the way down to P27 from what was originally, when we do the mathematics there, the best part of the P9 start. And the UK Sim Racing admin team driver didn't quite catch what happened to Bamber, but I do believe there was a bit of an incident on that open lap and it cost him quite dear, and will now try and recover his way back into this race. As he makes his way into turn number 1, getting quite close to the rear of Jeremy DeBover. In fact, that's Navarro DeBover there, the son of the family. We've got both father and son, Jeremy being the father, Navarro being his son. And as they make their way up the hill here, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a potential move being looked at by Bamber as he looks around the outside. Is he going to commit to the move? However, that's the big question as he goes into the braking zone. He does, and Navarro DeBover just backs off there and recognises there's no point fighting. We are fighting in different classes. But meanwhile, from them, speaking of fighting, we still do have Max versus Tunstead. Tunstead very close that time, going on through what was the run into Philippi Park, grazing the exit wall at turn number 9. I think Tunstead right now is getting impatient. I think he needs to get this move done sooner rather than later, because he is losing time right now. His next target will be Dirt Bounce, who is the best part currently of 3 seconds up the road, and right now Tunstead showing pace to potentially chase down a podium here today in the silver class if he can cut his way past Max. But as they make the way out of Forest Elbow, very close this time, he's timed it right, and as they make the way up the gearboxes in the toe, getting closer and closer and closer, and he peels out to the inside for what will be the kink. But as they drag race their way down Conrad, onwards they go, and it will be here an opportunity for Tunstead to gain the place. Max tucks back in immediately here, recognising the momentum change, and as they make the way onto the brakes, it is going to be Casper Tunstead moving up to P17, and I think Max here will try and hug the rear of Tunstead's car and use him to be pulled all the way up to what would be Ben Kirby in that battle for the bronze win here today. We've completed 15 minutes, we've still got another 30 to go, 2/3 of the racing remaining in Australia, and right now it's absolutely poised perfectly for a thriller towards the end. Because I can tell you one thing, whilst everything's happening outside the top 10, let's not forget in the top 10 we've also got some brilliant action occurring, including Tim Darracott and Nathan Foster here. Darracott having made the move quite recently, but Foster's coming back on the left-hand picture as they head into Griffiths Bend, and as they do, there's no way through this time for Foster. He tries to intimidate Darracott, but in the end, the Effect Simulations driver, he's too cool as a cucumber for that, as they make their way out to and up towards 3. Meanwhile, in the rear of the picture, we had a change of position. That's Jeremy DeBover making a move on Marcel Fritsch going through Griffiths, and in towards the cutting they go. Thomas Aspel just behind them as they head onto the brakes, and we'll very shortly take a look back at the moves that were made by firstly Darracott and then DeBover. But as I try to make the way over the hill, we stay with the live pictures for the time being. And the Austrian here from WS Racing Esports right now making gradual gains here after losing a place or two at the start of the race. And Jeremy DeBover, I think at this point in the race, a little bit faster by comparison, but Fritsch can use DeBover as an anchor to pull him forwards as they make their way through the left hand out of turn number 10. But as they come on through and down they go onto the braking zone here. Well, again, no real way to make a move here unless the driver in front of you gets it cataclysmically wrong in the process. But as they come down through turn number 15, Fritsch right now definitely picking up the pace here, and I think wanting to stay in the hunt for that podium with DeBover. But as they make their way through the left-hander, we get a replay of what happened between Tim Darracott and Nathan Foster in the battle for P9. And this was towards the end of the previous lap as we get the replay here. Darracott in the toe of Foster and also the toe of Holmes. And as he made his way through the kink there, Darracott ahead. And when he headed into the braking zone, Foster not giving up, going for the cutback there. But Darracott parking it nicely on apex, giving Foster the space to play with, but saying to him, you're going to have to go the long way round through 22 if you want to get this done. And with Foster still there going into 23, but Darracott in the end positioning the car just about right. And then we had the move by Jeremy DeBover on Marcel Fritsch. This was up into Griffiths Bend only moments ago, and DeBover going for the switch back to the inside there, sending a little bit of a dummy versus Fritsch, nicely done. And the Belgian driver there getting Fritsch conditions the idea that he was going to take the racing line there. Fritsch could take the racing line as well, but not so. Jeremy DeBover from DBR giving it a classic dummy and making it work. But returning to your live racing pictures, our drivers make their way onto lap number 9 now, and as they do, well, the battling could be ever closer here, as we have had a change of position for what is P16. You're looking at the P17 driver. This is Ben Kirby, and P16 is now Casper Tunstead. The silver class driver has made his way past the bronze leaders, and that means Kirby and Max are once again separated by only 3/10 of that as they make way up the mountain straight. And Max right now trying to get close to this. Glenn Humberstone encroaching from behind. As they head into the braking zone for turn number 2, well, the thing now that Kirby's going to be hoping is that Humberstone tries to force his way past Max and makes it inconvenient for Max to the point that the gap opens back up. But then again, Max may be cognizant of what's coming up behind, and he may be thinking to himself, okay, where's best to let Humberstone go so that way I don't lose any time, but in fact I maintain my time to my rival in front. The best way to do it would be out of Forrest's elbow. If he finds that Humberstone's very close, just lift off the throttle very slightly, lose about 1 to 2 miles an hour, and Humberstone will clear him by the time they get down into the chase chicane. But in return, what will be possible for Max? He can tuck back in the toe, and he doesn't lose any effective time in the process, or at least that's the way in theory it works out, because it can be different in reality. But as they make the way over the rise and down through Skyline, meanwhile, we look here to Cameron Smith versus Craig Schill, and as Schill tries to keep Cameron Smith at bay, the privateer continues to push on in the 23, and definitely right now keeping Schill absolutely honest in this battle for the final spot of the bronze podium. And whilst these guys aren't battling for the win necessarily, they'll feel like it's a win here today, given the fact that 2 favourites out front, and then everybody else right now really scrambling for that final podium spot, and with it the huge lucrative points that it does offer for a championship campaign. And Schill right now under increasing pressure. We thought he was going to break away at first, given the way he made the move on Smith, but in return, in fact, Smith now starting to get closer and closer and feeling comfortable. Speaking of people going fast, new fastest lap of this race at 205.33 to the nearest 100 is set by Philip Hammer in P2, and that could mean that right now we're seeing a change at the front of the field in terms of the gap to leaders. And staying here, Smith up the inside under braking, and as he goes for it there, well, there's no response from Schill initially, or is there? When he goes to the cutback around the outside, and Smith just slightly getting it out of sorts, coming out of the braking zone at turn 21, and it's going to be a return to P3 for Schill, but Smith comes back once again here, trying to look up the inside, can't quite find it, but a good attempt there from the 23 drive. Oh, goodness me! And, well, meanwhile, Schill gets it very, very wrong into the barrier on the exit of Murray's corner, and Murray's claims another driver, that's 2 so far today, who've been caught out by the very tricky final corner, and Craig Schill with that nasty knock through. You can see the front right suspension, the front right wheel is actually angled a lot more cambered than it should be right now, and I think that impact may see Craig Schill have to come into the pits the next time around, because that car is not looking healthy right now, and it could be a repair standards flag that's coming out with regards to the meatball flag, or the orange with the black around it. But as he makes his way up towards turn number 2, we'll have to wait and see it next time he comes past the pit lane entry, whether he peels on in. But meanwhile, we look back to your leaders here, ladies and gentlemen, and Cope versus Hammer right now. You may be wondering exactly what lap times are they delivering these two. Well, let's show you the lap time history between them and give you that figuratively. As you can see on the bottom of your screen here, it's the fact that over the last 5 laps, they have been exchanging lap times, with Cope getting the initial advantage there on lap 7 and 8, gaining in fact in the process a whole half a second, but now Hammer is starting to close the laps back down once again. I think Cope might just be trying to open that gap up enough to feel safe, try and get out to 2-3 seconds, because a 2 to 3 second margin is plenty when you consider the fact around here you've really got to push hard in order to be able to bring those gaps down. And as we look to what is Hammer versus Nold, meanwhile, you can see then Nicholas Nold not quite at the pace of his teammate, and that's the difference between them. Well, they make the way on towards another lap. Cope responds with a new fastest lap race, a 205.222. Hammer at 205.762. So I think Cope, they're getting the message, which is everything that you can do, Philip, I can do as well. And as they both make the way onto lap number 11, all these two right now exchanging lap times as if it's stocks on the trading market floor. Meanwhile, we have a little bit of exchange going on here. It's a position, it's a P8, and it's going to be Darracott looking up the inside of Holmes into Hell corner. And as they make the way onto the brakes here, will it be Hell? Will it be Heavenly? I think right now Darracott thinks he's got it done, but Holmes isn't going to back out anytime soon, as he has the wider line out the corner. That gives him the ability to carry more speed. And as they make the way out the mountain straight here, well, Holmes getting a nose back ahead, and look at Holmes go. In fact, right now, that's not just the exit. I think that's a sign of slightly less rear wing. Bit of contact between the two of them here as Darracott tries to squeeze Holmes. Holmes tries to give himself space into the right-hander as they go. And as they do, look at Nathan Foster. Foster looking up the inside as Darracott out of sorts coming out of the corner. Now, will Foster be able to get him through? Yes, he does. And Nathan Foster, a little bit of opportunity opportunism, gets right back into the fight. He moves up to P9, and we jump on board here with Tim Darracott, who loses not just one, but 2 places in that battle. But meanwhile, Foster gets it wrong, coming out of turn number 5 over the apex curve. Too much curve, and Nathan Foster loses out now as Darracott returns to P9, so it's reset between the trio, and they go once again. Thrilling racing between them. Still more to come, there's no question about it. And the smallest of mistakes proving pivotal there for both Darracott and Foster in their exchange versus Holmes as they make their way on through. And meanwhile, looking to another gold driver who's trying to make further progress up through the field. Thomas Asphaug, the Norwegian driver for Race Lab Esports, he's close behind Marcel Frisch as they make their way through the righty to left, coming on through the dipper, and will forward himself at this point. I think right now eyeing up a potential move, but no, there's still some way to go before he gets to the likes of his gold peers of what will be Nathan Foster and Tim Darracott. That gap standing currently at the best part of what is 7 seconds. And we'll speak in the standings here. Let's show you those class standings on the left hand side of your screen. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, as everybody currently stands with regards to their positioning, it does seem as though for most of our drivers on around here, the battles right now either isolated or drivers having to pick their way on through what we drives another class. Asphaug still looking for his way past Rich, can't seem to find it at the moment, but as he winds his way through that gap between himself and Foster, standing at the best part, as we said, 7 seconds, and right now that gap is stabilising. But meanwhile, setting a new class fastest lap in the silver class, it's a 206.488. It's Lucas Romano here for RPM as he continues to try and deliver the goods here to carve his way through to victory. Lee Holmes, Tim Darracott and Nathan Foster a bit further behind him as he makes his way up the rise. And meanwhile, Corey Lazarus in the battle for P4 of the gold class with Emil Koopmans and Øystein Hereford behind him. Well, right now Lazarus under pressure, but the one thing he does have as an ace up his sleeve is he has track position, and that's always important here at Bathurst, particularly when you start to make your way over the mountain, because you have the clear air, your rivals don't, and therefore you can start to push away. As we do see here, the Blackout Motorsport OPR drive riding on board from the rear of his car. We get an exact demonstration as Koopmans starts a little bit further back there, fighting with the dirty air on through what was Corey Bend, and in towards McPhillamy they go out of 9, in towards turn number 10 then. Lazarus turning nice and early there, smooth run through the corner, gap opens up to 4 tenths. He makes his way over the skyline. Can we discern anything with regards to the difference in the body language of the cars? We can definitely when Koopmans hits the wall. Oh my good lord, and with that, Koopmans there finding his race has gone very quickly backwards after what was looking to be a very quick run over skyline and down to the dipper, but in the end too much speed being carried, and Koopmans with a nasty knock to the wall, and that could be a visit to the pit lane for the Dutchman as he now has to try and contend with a car that may not be in the ideal condition anymore. But meanwhile, as we look back to the overall standings, we keep having a little bit of an intervention occur between the bronze lead battle of Kirby and Max. They recently had Glenn Humberstone decide to carve his way through, and now they're back together once again, and Max and Kirby, they continue to sit 4 tenths apart. Now whether they're just staying in formation right now until the very end of this race before they start fighting or not, perhaps a little bit of mutual agreement, we're going to save it for the last 15 minutes or the last 5 minutes even, we'll have to wait and see. But even so, both drivers here staying this close together, they'll both be pushing each other hard, and they'll both be starting to wear into tyres, and also that concentration level so critical. But meanwhile, speaking of concentration levels here, where it's going to be Marcel Frisch concentrating on how he can get the best run out of turn 21 to tuck in behind Thomas Asphaug, who makes a move for overall P13. There the gold driver comes on through, gaining another place. They make their way down towards Murray's corner here once more, and as they come in to the left hand, it's gone to lap number 13 for them. Well, right now the Austrian driver, I think, hoping that Asphaug can pull him up towards Jeremy Dover and DDD Verlaming, who are a little bit further up the road. In fact, the best part of 3 seconds clear now as they go on to the next lap. As they come on through the left-hander and onwards they go on to the mountain straight. Meanwhile, Casper Tunstead looking for another move here and getting close to the back of Dirk Bouts as he comes on through in turn number 1. He's got Glenn Humberstone behind, and in fact, Tunstead's charge has recently been quite severely compromised, it must be said, ever since he's come up behind Bouts, in the fact his pace has fallen off. And right now, the main thing to be watching out for is the man behind Tunstead. Glenn Humberstone last lap took a whole second out of Tunstead, and it would seem as though the ATEC Racing purple driver, I'm not sure whether he's been keeping the pace bottled up in the opening half of this race, but one thing is for certain is right now he's unleashing that pace, and as they made out Griffith's bend, a slow run for Bouts, Tunstead compromised, and Humberstone having to wait in the wings here. He can't really look for the move into the cutting unless he can get alongside into 3, but no way through there for the Britishman. He's going to wait behind the Dane and the Belgian as they make their way through the double right in turns 5 and 6 and over the crest of 7. As they all graze the wall, they're so close to the wall indeed. very, very tricky at the best of times to get it right, particularly when you've got cars in front of you which obscure your visibility even further. Well, right now, nighttime is gradually descending on the circuit, and to give you a flavour there, local time at the moment coming almost to what is 20 to 8 in the evening, and as you can see, the track temperature now down to 24 degrees centigrade, so the track is cooling and being holding at 23 degrees centigrade. So this track right now really tries to push hard to keep it alive and keep what will be the tyre temperature. I think we just heard a driver make their way into the wall a little bit further behind on coming down through the dipper there, although didn't quite see who it was. Was it Chris Ederson or Matt Strand potentially? Not quite sure. We haven't got any data to suggest otherwise, but it's definitely night time coming towards our drivers here, and this circuit getting colder and cooler, and that could lead to some mistakes in turn as lap times will start to go faster when drivers push it. But meanwhile, dirt bounce here being pushed to the limit by Casper Tunstead, who gets very close once again, but Tunstead not looking for the move for what is their P5 in the silver class, or P15 overall, coming on through the chase. And as they make the way down towards Murray's, it's going to be a move down from Tunstead, or is it? No, not quite. Bounce able to outbrake him there. Tunstead trying to get Bounce to look more and more in his rearview mirrors rather than forward. It's the classic strategy, and yes, we were correct about a car going to all. Matt Strand is into the pit lane, and as we see him making his way on through, the damage he's picked up with the contact into the dipper, while the Wolves there definitely having some racing over esports paint left on it. Well, right now Strand having to limp the car on in. That'll give Chris Edersford a few other places in the silver class, and they'll be grateful for those, but knowing there's still a lot of work to be done, and Matt Strand's race comes to an abrupt halt, a very unfortunate halt, no question about it, as he now tries to bring things back together. But meanwhile, looking from him back to Lee Holmes versus Tim Darracott. Will these two continue to push on here? And Lee Holmes has recently been passed by Tim Darracott as of lap number 13. The question is, how was the move made? Let's take a look back. This was the run out of turn number 23, and as Holmes carrying the corner there, gets a bit wrong on the power of the car, wanting to go straight on rather than round to the left, and as a result, Darracott able to seize the opportunity there and take the move and move up into P8 overall, P7 in the gold class. And well, an unexpected mistake from Lee Holmes. It's very rare you see Holmes make a mistake, but that one proving punishing, as Holmes really now, as we come back to your live picture, seems to be struggling to a degree as he makes his way on through Forest Elba. I wonder where he's perhaps taken a little bit too much life out of the car in the early stage of this race. Again, some drivers have talked about the fact the tyres do feel comfortable at certain circuits after 30 minutes of racing in the feature races, but here we've got 45 minutes, and come the end of those 45 minutes, I think the tyres, well, some will say the tyres can do a few more laps, but I think they'll also be expecting that the tyres are starting to fall off the proverbial cliff by comparison with how fresh they were at the start of this race today. New fastest lap, meanwhile, a 2:04.810 for Nicholas Nold, who right now at the best part of 2 seconds behind Philip Hammer in the battle for P2. He's starting to get a bit closer to his teammate. Could we see a potential swap between the two of them if Nold feels as though he can go chasing after Thomas Cope? We'll have to wait and see. It's the second of the 204s being set today, with Cope setting a 204.97 earlier on in the race, and now Nold setting a 204.81. Remembering there are bonus points for fastest lap in the race as well for each of the classes, so therefore Nold making sure that fastest lap point goes the way of Impulse Racing. They'll want every point they can in their rivalry with Olympus XGD6, but right now at the front of the field it is Cope who leads, and speaking of Thomas Cope, here he is, the Olympus XGD6 driver in a bit of a lonely lead here as he makes his way on through turn number 9 and in towards 10. But as he comes on through the double left-hander, we'd just like to take this moment to let you know that, ladies and gentlemen, that with regards to driver of the day for today at Bathurst, the voting is now open, and you can vote using the link available in the Twitch chat. It's a quick and simple Google form. Do let us know who's caught your eye today and who is your driver of the day. Voting will close as of what will be midnight tonight. That's Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time at UTC. So do let us know who your driver of the day is, and we'll remind you to cast your vote a little bit later on if you want to stay engrossed on the race action for the time being. We can't blame you for that, as we do see here the freeway battle for P5 in the silver class between Mouse, Tunstead and Humberstone, and Humberstone continues to sit behind here as he makes his way through 6 and 7 once again. As he charges his way through the left-handers, turns 8, 9 and 10. You can see that they're backing off quite a bit compared to Bounce and Tunstead. Tunstead incredibly close by comparison to the back of Bounce. They made the way into the Filamy Path. In fact, only a 10th there when they made the way on the apex of turn number 9. Tunstead definitely the faster of the two drivers, but he just hasn't got enough on the exit for Forest Elba and onto Conrad. And I wonder whether Tunstead really has invested in a lot more downforce and therefore can absolutely run as tight to his rivals as possible. But as soon as they get onto the straights here, unless he gets the perfect run and can stay within arm's reach of the rear wing, he's just not able to go for a move. And as they make the way through the kink, this time coming out of Forest Elba, 2 tenths is the delta. Surely this has got to be a golden opportunity for Tunstead, but look at the gap. It's slowly coming down, but they're already halfway down down Conrad, and he's not alongside yet. I think that's a sign of how much downforce Tunsted's running. Bounce pulls over down to the racing line. Tunsted's going to stay over to the left looking for the move, but Bounce in the end just able to stay confidently in the lead of this battle. He just does not feel as though Tunsted's able to make a move. And the RPM driver, I think he's definitely seen that Tunstead right now, for all the speed he's got over the mountain, he just hasn't got the 1 to 2 miles an hour he needs extra on these straights to be able to make the move happen. And as they make the way out to turn 23 and on to the next lap, going into lap 16 for these guys, well, right now you would imagine if Humberstone can see this and actually ascertain that data and the fact that Tunstad doesn't have the straight line speed, he may be able to get involved in. Perhaps he could even take both of them if he's able to pick up a colossal double toe, but he's got to get very close. As meanwhile in the rear of the picture, Kirby and Max, the bronze leaders, still running nose to tail there. Let's not forget them as well. So we've got quite a few battles yet to be decided, ladies and gentlemen. It's not over yet as they make the way on for a bit of flashing lights there. I think that was Humberstone by looks of things trying to do a bit of distraction, but meanwhile Kirby versus Max, and it is Kirby still leading this battle. He's been leading it since lap number 1, indeed since the lights out and away we've gone. But as Kirby makes his way up towards what is the cutting here, he'll know that Max is right there waiting, and should a single mistake be made, then the lead will go the other way, or the battle will be immediately on between them. As they come on out, meanwhile we look to Bounce here, and Tunstad making the way through turns 8 and 9, and again you can just see how close Tunstad is. It's a temp every time as he comes on through out the left-hander, and as they make the way over the rise and down through McPhillamy, we look back from the rear of Bounce's car here. Tunstad in your picture, and lights on as they make the way down through 12 into 13-14, and again at Bounce here just not able to carry as much speed. In fact, kind of a bit wide of apex there this time around through the dipper, and that might be a sign that the tyres starting to go off for Bounce. Instead, meanwhile there, Bounce going in the middle of the road this time, trying to get nice and tight to the wall, and as they make the way out, Tunstad gets the better exit, but it's free temp, and again he starts to close little by little, but by the time he gets to the ridge down corner, that's going to be worth about what will be about 1.5 tenths when he gets there. Tunstad is looking quite fast this time. I wonder if Bounce's compromise run may have cost him here as they make the way into the kink. Here they go, and it's contact between the two, and Tunstad's into the wall. He's turned into the wall. They're in the contact, and Bounce will hold on, but goodness me, whether he saw Tunstad going for the move or not, that's another question entirely. But I can tell you one thing, Tunstad's race right now has come to an abrupt and sudden halt with regards to that instant, and Casper Tunstad right now, well, it could have been far, far worse. The car could be in pieces right now, not to be, but the Peak Sim Racing driver makes his way past pit entry as he comes on down in towards turn number 23. Well, right now the car's struggling through the corner. Indeed, that's a lot of damage on the car, and with that, Tunstad's race right now has gone from good to bad to nightmare in a very quick period of time. Indeed, as he makes his way in towards turn number 1. Halloween may have only been a couple of days ago, but right now Tunstad having the fright of his life there coming on down, and we take a look back at exactly what happened. So they're drag racing the way along. We ride aboard with Tunstad here, gets the nose in, and I think Tunstad there feels as though he had the right to go for the move as the car almost rolled onto its roof. Thankfully it didn't, and I hope Tunstad's okay with that one. Even on the simulator, that is going to send a shock through you. There's no question about it when the adrenaline's pumping like mad. But Tunstad there, I think he had the right to the line, but being squeezed out, I think it would have been returned. Been Bounce arguing he wasn't fully alongside, so I had the right to close the door. Well, either way, I think the two drivers will agree to disagree on that one, and there might be a bit of a conversation about it after the race. But as they made the way on down there, definitely a contentious one between the RPM and Peak Sim Racing driver, and well, goodness me, it's still in this race, but definitely in a car that will be absolutely wounded. But as we do see it, Tunstad making his way on through turn number 10 and up towards 11. Meanwhile, well, we have another side-by-side here where it all went wrong for Tunstad and Bounce only moments ago, but this time it's going a little bit cleaner by comparison here as Foster trying to go around the outside, but there's contact between the two of them in the end. Foster just figured he got it done. Lee Holmes backs off immediately. Respectful racing between the two of them, to be fair. Holmes being the absolute gentleman there when Foster was turned to make sure Foster didn't get turned any further. That could have been tears for both drivers, but the ATEC Tech Racing purple driver immediately reacting, and they immediately go racing once again. You love to see it like this, ladies and gentlemen. You never want to see them make contact, but when they do and they sort it out like that, it's fantastic to see. Meanwhile here, DDD Valamit versus Jeremy Debova. Debova on the outside, Valamit on the inside, trying to go for the switchback here as the DVR driver as they make the way on through, and Debova right now in the tow. He can't find his way through past Valamit for now, but you imagine he's very eager to do so, and you can understand why, because this is the second place in the silver class here, and Debova right now championship leader, won every point versus Lucas Romano, who in third place will be looking to launch his way out the order. Meanwhile, Dirt Bounce battling with Glenn Humberstone And Bounce here trying to make for P5 after losing a place to Glenn Humberstone only moments ago going into the corner. But as they drag race their way on through, well, has Bounce got damage which is causing him to lose some speed? That's the question that's going to be on his mind. I think Humberstone's going to answer that question, or is he? As Bounce goes very late under braking there, but gets the car stopped. And Bounce, to be fair, his braking efficiency into these corners is phenomenal. He's able to get that car stopped on a dime. And as they make the way through into the cutting here, well, Humberstone right now will know where he's got to do it. He's got to be well ahead before he gets to the braking zone, because otherwise Bounce will just be able to counter-attack on the braking and the move will not be on. But as they make the way up through the right into left here of turns 6 and 7, meanwhile we look to Cameron Smith, car into the rear of the picture, and that's Casper Tunstead who's gone around, and I think it is a tow to the pits there for the Peak Sim Racing driver, given the rules, and well, the Peak Sim Racing car in the end does falter with only 8 minutes to that final hurdle. But as they make the way over the rise and down, we look back to the battle for the bronze lead between Ben Kirby and Charlie Max. These two still glued together, you can't separate them as they make the way on through the dip with only 7 minutes now on the clock. And as they make the way in towards Forest Elbow, which of the two of them here is going to find that uphand in the closing 5 minutes? I think this will come down to literally the last lap between. I think they're both goading one another into pushing a little bit harder every lap, and who's got the time life, who's got the car life and the energy as a driver left in order to be able to hold on, well, that we'll see shortly. But meanwhile, as they head up towards what will be the chase chicane and head into that braking zone, we look back here to Cameron Smith, and right now he's in 3rd place. He's looking on course for his first podium of the season, the bronze class, and he's looking to try and claim a silver driver in the form of Chris Eddersford, as Eddersford defends in the middle of the road initially, and Smith backs off and tucks him behind. But Cameron Smith wanting to go racing here today. It's lovely to see from the 23 driver, and getting his fangs out there and trying to bite into his rival, trying to go for a top 20 overall as they make the way down towards Murray's corner, looking for it, goes all on the brakes here. Eddersford sees him coming, a bit of a squeeze the apex there, not the best of runs for the pair of them, making some contact. I think Smith arguing why I had the right to the inside, Eddersford thinking otherwise, and as they make the way in towards turn number 1, well, they stay as they were there, and then Smith goes all in, and this time he gets it stopped, and I think trying to say to Eddersford, that's what I meant to do, and Cameron Smith takes P20 there, Eddersford chasing after him, but 4 tenths is the gap, and I don't think Eddersford's got a response here as they make the way up towards Griffiths Bend. But as they do, meanwhile, we look from them back to Dirt Bounce versus Glenn Humberstone as they head in towards the cutting for what is the 19th time of asking as they come on through the left-hander. Bounce goes very deep there. Huddersford's going to get closer, and Humberstone, I should say, is going to get closer and closer. Meanwhile, we have had Emil Cooper's find his way by Oystein Hereford on the run down Conrad. We're going to come to that very shortly. In fact, we're going to come to it right now, because as we can see here, Koopmans is clearly in front, is the Dutchman for Apex Missers, and he does have an advantage of 4 attempts here as Hereford tucking in behind. But how was the move made, I hear you ask? Well, here's the replay that tells it all. Was they made the way out for his elbow. I think Hereford making contact with all that grazing contact. You can see the car slow and pulling over to the right. So Hereford not too happy with the run out the corner. Koopmans getting back ahead, and then Hereford tucking into the turret first, but Koopmans responding by pulling onto that inside line and then looking for the run on down. And I think, in fact, Oystein Hereford trying to get rid of the toe there in order to prevent an overspeed. And perhaps right now just wanting to stay behind and get the car all back in condition in terms of gauge where the car has taken the knock to the wall and then understand how it's going to behave. Is it starting to potentially not point in a straight line anymore when you put straight line steering input in? Does he need to have the steering wheel at a slight angle, etc.? Because you can see there, Hereford really struggling behind Koopmans. And I think this could be the sign of a slight downfall for the Olympus XG86 driver. But meanwhile, there's a contact there between Humberstone and Bounce, and well, it's Humberstone's gone round. Meanwhile, Kirby versus Max. And as they head on through what is turn number 23, we've got 2 stories to tell there. In fact, it wasn't a move by Max on Kirby. It was just simply the 2 drivers making the way on past the stricken Glenn Humberstone. But the point being is we do look here to Cameron Smith defending versus Chris Eddersford. Eddersford trying to come back at Cameron Smith in the battle for P20. Cameron Smith having none of this. He doesn't want to let go of this P20 position. He wants to go racing today, and all for it as he makes his way in towards turn number 1. But what exactly happened to Glenn Humberstone's the big question. And well, here is the replay. So as they made the way into the corner, a bit of contact. Humberstone had the inside line, but I think coming into the side of Bounce, very poor camera angle there to tell us the story. I don't think we can really get another camera angle, or can we? As we try to take another look, and well, there's a slightly better camera angle. I think Humberstone may, from the camera angles we've seen, have taken a bit too much speed into the corner and made side contact with Bounce. But again, we're not going to pass judgment on that. That's for the stewards to do if it gets reported. And indeed, our camera angle's not too obliging, but Humberstone there definitely coming up the worst of the contact between between the two of them into turn 21. But as we return to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, 3 minutes still left on the clock. Still plenty of racing to go here at the one and only Mount Panorama circuit in Australia. And as the racing carries on, will mean, well, we have had a tow to the pits for Navarro de Bova after an incident off camera. That's dropped him down a P29. But meanwhile, in the battle between Tim Darracott and Lucas Romano, Darracott up to P7. He's made his way past Lucas Romano only moments ago. And as they head in towards Murray's Corner, the two of them here going their separate ways, it would seem. And Darracott right now, well, he is the best part of what is 13.5 seconds of Oystein Hereford. The key point being here for Darracott is in the fact that he does have that P7 position. He is going to hold on to it by looks of things for the remainder of the race, and well, he'll have to settle for that. But meanwhile, one man who can't settle because he's got growing pressure behind from a fast charging Dutchman is New Zealander Corey Lazarus. As they head in towards turns 3 and 4, into the cutting they go for what will be for them, I do believe, the penultimate time here today. We will get 22 laps of racing, and as they make the way through Quarry Bend, well, Lazarus, I think, feeling confident right now that he's got enough in the tank with 5 tenths between himself and Koopmans, but it only takes one quick move from Koopmans in order to get close. One good lap is all you need in order to be right on the rear end of your rival. But as they make the way through, meanwhile, we have had a change of lead in the bronze class. It's finally kicking off here with another lap to go after this one, and it is Charlie Max battling with Ben Kirby. Max trying to look around the outside of Kirby into turn 1, couldn't make it work, and now Simon Bamber's on the case here, trying to put some pressure on Max, and Max right now will be thinking, please don't overtake me, I want to go battling with Kirby. But I think right now Bamber might have other ideas, or does he just sit there and watch? Well, as they make the way through, meanwhile, we look up to P2. This is Hammer ahead of Nicholas Nold, but Nold is the fastest of the two drivers at this point in the race, and the Impulse racing at pair 2-3 right now, knowing there's some huge points on the board today. Indeed, they'll get more points than Olympus XGD if things finish as they currently stand, with Cove and Hereford being P1, P6 by relative comparison. But I think right now Hammer and Nold just trying to figure out which one of the two of them is going to be on that second spot of the podium and who will be third. But as they make the way onto the final lap, the white flag waves. Meanwhile, behind them, it's Lazarus versus Koopmans once again, and Koopmans looking around the outside here. Onto the brakes they go, and there's no way Lazarus is letting this go. He wants that full place. You can understand why the Blackout Motorsport driver will do everything he can here to hold on. One more lap between them as they make the way up towards turn 1, and as they head into left-hander here, well, right now it's going to be do or die for these two as they make the way all the way to the finish line in terms of who's going to be holding on to that full place finish all the way. You see the Lazarus weaving, bobbing on the straight here as he powers his way on through. And indeed, I mentioned there from Medmo to say there's been an incident for Lee Holmes somewhere on circuit. We will try and catch that if we can, but I think as it's the final lap, we're going to be standing with the race in action all the way to the very end, ladies and gentlemen. And we're right now, Lazarus still under pressure here from the fast charging Dutchman of Koopmans. They head into the cutting, onto the brakes they go through the left when the clock strikes 45 minutes, which it does now. This is the final lap here in round number 8 of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup. You're watching it live on UK Sim Racing Twitch.tv, and as they make the way over the right here through turns 7, 8 and 9, well, Lazarus right now trying to finish with his door number P4, and as he comes in towards turn number 10, it's a poor run out of 9, and that means Koopmans is going to get very, very close, but agonisingly close, as they look over the skyline, and Lazarus backing off over the mountain, and it means that Koopmans comes on through for P4. Now what a run from the 911 driver, but can he hold on in the end as they make the way on through? We'll have to see, as in fact Lazarus going slower and slower, letting another place go. Is he running out of fuel potentially? That could be a concern. But meanwhile, in the battle for P2, it's Hammer and Nold. Hammer still ahead, Nold on his back. And as they make the way down into the chase chicane, no exchange between the two of them right now. I think that's where they're going to stay to the very end. But meanwhile, this man, he stayed up front ever since he took the lead, and he's not going to look back as he comes up through the final corner. He adds another win to his trophy cabinet. It's Thomas Cope who takes the win in round number 8 here at Bathurst for Olympus XGD by a margin of 5 seconds in the end, over a 2-3 for Impulse Racing. Philip Hammer ahead of Nicholas Nold, and then it will be 14 seconds behind Emil Koopmans in the end, who comes up through the left-hander for Apex Misses of Murray's Corner to take that fourth place. Another great result for the Dutchman. Oystein Hereford P5 behind him, and then it will be Corey Lazarus who's limping to line. I think he's low on fuel or something of that description, because something's gone very, very wrong with the car right at the end, but he will make it home to P6 in the end, will the New Zealander. Tim Darracott comes on through P7, and then give a round of applause. This man, ladies and gentlemen, dominant in the silver class. It's another win for Lucas Romano from RPM in silver, P8 overall. A brilliant drive from the Belgian ahead of Nathan Foster P9. And then we will shortly have, coming out of the final corner, Jeremy Deboa to finish run-up in the silver class. P10 fights his way through to a top 10, ahead of Thomas Aspau and Didi Devalaming, who finishes the silver podium. Lee Holmes P13 just behind them, and then it will be the battle of Charlie Max and Ben Kirby. And on this last lap, they've been fighting hard as Marcel Fritsch comes on through for P14. Dirt Bounce just in front of these, but Max right now trying to hold on to the very end. The move being made right at the end of the race, and Max is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. It's Charlie Max who takes the bronze win for Friends Racing by Connextors, P16 overall by a hair's width over Ben Kirby, run up in the bronze class. Simon C. Bamber and Glenn Humberstone behind them. Chris Edison comes on through to finish P20 just ahead of Cameron Smith, and more round of applause for Cameron Smith. He's gone racing today and he's netted himself his first bronze podium of the season. Third place in the class, P21 overall ahead of Nicholas Grunstrom, and then it will be, well, in fact there's Nicholas Grunstrom there, and then it will be Matt Strand who makes his way through the final corner to take P23, and he will be your last lead lap finisher with Craig Shield at P24 a lap down. Sean W has recently crossed the line, and we're just waiting on this man, Alistair Hatcher, to finish our racing here today. He's P26, P6 in the bronze class there for ATEC Racing Cyan. Now I can note immediately, many of you are going to be asking what exactly happened between Max and Kirby on that final lap. Well, we are going to find out very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, we immediately cut to a replay of that battle between them, and this is what happened. It was Kirby defending on the inside here into the chase chicane, and Max all the way around the outside to the inside, and that is a textbook pass going through the chase chicane. Indeed, if you could put that into a textbook for a school today, that would be the finest example, because what a move from Charlie Max to go all the way round the outside to inside. And as he made his way onto the brakes here through the left-hander, what a brilliant move being made as he came on through there, and in the end Ben Kirby just not able to find a response in return as they made their way down towards the final corner. And Jock Muir, hopefully we managed to take those tears away there so you could see what happened right at the end of the bronze class. Indeed, we couldn't catch it all live, but we've been able to catch the replay and show you exactly what happened there. But as we return now to our live pictures of the circuit side, ladies and gentlemen, many of our drivers on a cool down lap, getting themselves all comfortably here, composed and back into the pit lane. And what a race we have had today. Indeed, you couldn't sum it up better, Roxanne Marshall in the Twitch chat. What a fantastic race. And Jock Moore saying there, loved it, cracking race all round. Indeed, it's been a phenomenal one. And just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that if anybody today has caught your eye as being driver of the day, votes are currently open. It's just a quick 3 clicks. Click on the link, the Google form in the Twitch chat to get to the form, and then click on the drop down button to find your driver, and then click their name. In fact, there's a 4th click in there because you need to submit the form as well. But the point being, 4 clicks and you can cast your vote, and we will announce who the driver of the day for Bathurst was as of the qualifying session of rounds 9 and 10 in 2 weeks time when we do return to the racing. But what a day it has been. And as Thomas Cope there delivers the donuts on the start finish line, it comes to the end of the donuts in fact, and they're burning what fuel and tyres are left on the rear of that Porsche 992 Cup car. Well, let's take you through those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. So after 45 minutes of intense racing at Mount Panorama Circuit in the city of Bathurst, the state of New South Wales, Australia today, for round number 8 of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup Season 8, brought to you on iRacing, Thomas Cope leading the way on through to make it 3 wins on the bounce for Olympus XGD6. 5 seconds clear in the end of Philip Hammer, with the Impulse Racing driver leading home a 2-3 ahead of teammate Nicholas Knoll. Emil Koopmans P4 for Apex misses ahead of Oystein Hereford in a brilliant battle between them and also Corey Lazarus, who seemed to have an issue with the car on the final lap, and I suspect it may have been fuel or perhaps some suspension damage from the curbs over the mountain. But either way, the Apex Missers drive just missing out on the podium, but still taking a great finish there ahead of the Olympus XGD6 driver, and then the Blackout Motorsport OPR driver coming to an abrupt end of his run for P4, but still a P6, and he'll be pleased with that. Tim Darracott P7 for Effect Simulations by what was 3 seconds over your Silver Class winner, P8 Lucas Romano for RPM. Congratulations to him as he finished ahead of Nathan Foster for Empire Motorsport, and then Jeremy Debova, the silver runner-up, completing your top 10 overall for DBR. Tosa Aspau on his debut, P11 there, best the rest. In the gold class, he was the best part of what was P9, and the Racing Lab Esports drive being followed up by the 3rd place silver finisher, P12 overall of DD Devalaming for DBR, completing that silver podium of RPMs, Lucas Romano, and then the DBR pair of Jeremy Debova and DD Devalaming. Huge points for DBR today. Indeed, they'll be absolutely proud of that. Lee Holmes P13 for ATIC Tech Racing Purple ahead of Marcel Fritsch for WS Racing Esports and RPM's Dirt Bounce to complete your top 15. And that leads us nicely on through to Charlie Max, who have that last lap overtake around the outside to inside in the chase chicane versus Ben Kirby took the win for Friends Racing by Connexus ahead of the All Spares by Connexus driver. But there was nothing between the pair of them for the best part of 44.5 minutes of racing. It all came down to the final major corners of the final lap in the day, and that's what we love to see. Simon C. Bamber P18 ahead of Glenn Humberstone, with Chris Edison completing a top 20 overall for UK Sim Racing admin team, and then Cameron Smith P21, the privateer, rounding off the bronze podium there of Max Kirby and Smith, with Cameron Smith taking his first bronze podium of the season. P22 for Nicholas Grunstrom, and a difficult day today for the Beak Sim Racing driver, and the same could be said for Matt Strand, P23 for Racing Lab Esports, and then finishing a lap down but fighting on to the very end, Craig Shield for ATIC Tech Racing Siam, Sean Dobie there, also Alistair Hatcher, 2 laps down at Casper Tunstead, and a very unfortunate end to his race after what was looking to be going so strongly, particularly in the opening half of the race, making places left, right and centre. Also Joe Pinder, 2 laps down for Limas by Connexus, and then Navarro de Bova, 3 laps down but still making it to the checker flag there for DBR. Then we had our retirements, or the drivers who managed to only complete half the race distance or less, so therefore they'll be not classified, including Stephen Ray for 24-hour Punty People, Mark Cadmore, the privateer, Sean Cranley Swash, Roxanne Marshall, and last but not least, Forsten Sefer, with the Ring Fiat Sim Racing driver having a nightmare day today in Australia, and fingers crossed for him that the luck will turn around when we return to the racing for rounds 9 and 10. But now we come on to the individual class finishing positions. And this is where all the points are made, of course, in the class championships. And as we can see, Thomas Copenhagen for Olympus XGD6 taking an emphatic win over the Impulse racing pair of Philip Hammer and Nicholas Nold, with then there being a further 14 seconds to Emerald Koopman's P4, with the Apex Misters driver holding off Oistein Hereford and Corey Lazarus. Tim Darrell got P7 for Effect Simulations, 4 seconds off of Lazarus at the finish line, but in return, what was 11 seconds clear of Nathan Foster, so found himself in no man's land right towards the end of the race. And then Nathan Foster, Thomas Aspau and Lee Holmes completing your top 10. With Simon Seabam at P11 and the UK Sim Racing admin team driver spending a lot of time battling with the silver and bronze drivers today. May not have been on the pace, but I think enjoyed the racing. Then we come on to the silver class, and as we can see here, your winner, Lucas Romano for RPM, winning by 15.2 seconds over the DBR pair of Jeremy Debova and Didi Divalamink, with the two of them separated by only 7 tenths, I should say, at the line. And then Marcel Fritsch P4 there for WS Racing Esports, another strong top 5 finish for the WS Racing Esports driver, and the Austrian will be pleased with that and keeping Dirt Bounce behind at the end for RPM. Glenn Humberstone, P6, ahead of Chris Edisford, with Nicholas Grunstrom, Matt Strand and Casper Tunstead completing a top 10. Matt Strand being the last lead lap finisher of the class, and then Casper Tunstead 2 laps down for Peak Sim Racing. Best list, P11, Navarro de Bova there for DBR, and then it's Sean Cranley Swash, Roxanne Marshall and Forsten Sever, who were your retirees in the class and therefore non-finishers as classified, and you can see their 24-hour Punty people definitely having a difficult day down under. We'll then come on to the bronze class, last but not least. And as we can see, Charlie and Max taking the win by half a second. The end for Friends Racing by Connexus over the sister team car for All Spares by Connexus, Ben Kirby. And then Cameron Smith a further, what was 13 seconds behind, the privateer completing the bronze podium. ATIC Tech Racing Science, Craig Shield finishing a lap down, and the same for Clicks Racing of Sean Dobie to complete the top 5, with Alistair Hatcher a lap down at P6 for ATIC Tech Racing Siam, head of Joe Pinder, the Elimus by Connexus driver, 2 laps down, and then the 2 retirees of Stephen Ray for 24-hour Punty People and Mark Cadmore, the privateer. And commiserations for them, and we do wish them the better of fortunes as the next pair of races. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of our racing action here today in Australia, and what a round of racing it has been. And, well, once again, we'd just like to remind you, we posted a link twice in the Twitch chat. If you haven't casted your vote for Driver of the Day, this is now an opportune time to do so, because we are going to step away for approximately 10 minutes in order to get ready for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. But when we get back, you won't want to miss those interviews for the simple reason I'm sure many of our drivers got plenty of stories to tell from the Mount Panorama Racing Circuit, and we'll be bringing all of those to you live. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are back for our post-round interviews. And today, we're going to be hearing from 3 winners and also a second place finisher, but we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. We're going to be starting off as per usual with a single interviewee in the form of Lucas Romano, our silver class winner for RPM. And then we're going to be hearing from our gold class winner of Thomas Cope from Olympus X Geodesic and hearing about what happened in qualifying versus that scintillating race pace. But then we're going to have 2 interviews together, and it will be our P1, P2 finishers in the bronze class of Charlie Max for Friends Racing by Connexus and Ben Kirby for All Spares by Connexus to hear the story about their battle in qualifying and their battle that went all the way down to the last lap to see Charlie Max take the bronze win. But without further ado, it's time for Lucas Romano to join me in the interview room. And as he does so, good evening to you, Lucas, and what a drive from yourself today. I mean, you've been making it a habit of running away up front since Motorland Aragon, and today it was no different. You look to be in full control at Bathurst. I have to ask, is this a circuit you normally do well at?
Good evening, Paul. No, actually, I do not very much like the circuit, but today I just composed myself from the start, and yeah, really happy the race ended, and the good result is in the pocket because it was really a stressy race for me.
Oh, goodness me. Well, a stressful race for yourself, but I mean, in qualifying, it didn't look too stressful. In the end, taking P8 overall and was pole position in the silver class by the best part of a second over your sister team's driver of DDD Valaming. I mean, qualifying looked to be spot on.
Yeah, qualifying was good. For me, it helps to take a couple out laps, not going at it at the first 2 laps. And then the lap time, I was quite happy with it. At this track, I'm never very confident, so I know I won't match the pace of the top guys, but happy with it.
Well, it was a good lap, and I have to ask, when you're saying about the fact that you found today's race quite stressful, is it just the nature of Bathurst in terms of the fact you can make mistakes easily around here, and in doing so, it ends your race? Just take us through why this has been such a difficult race for yourself.
I don't know, I think for me it's the braking. I'm never at ease in the braking zones at Bathurst. I don't know why it is, but yeah, no clue. In the GT3 it's a little bit better, so I can rely on the ABS in case it goes wrong. But in the Cup, I'm always on the tip of my toes.
Oh, goodness me, we definitely were dancing the car around on the tip of its wheels when we went racing, losing the place to Simon Bamber at the start, but it looked as though you weren't too worried about that and very quickly finding your way up to speed and mixing it up with some of the gold class drivers.
Yeah, as I said, I tried to do my own thing and just focus on my own lap times and yeah, not worry too much about the rest around me. Simon had a better start, so I didn't make it very difficult for him, I think. And then yeah, the race came to me.
And as the race came to you, I have to ask, how did it feel with regards to the way the car evolved? I mean, we talk about in the sprint and well, in fact, the heat and the feature races about how the car has to be driven very aggressively in the heat races, whereas in the feature race you have to be quite calm with the car. But here today, 45 minutes at a circuit which never lets up. I mean, did it feel as though the car was getting better every lap, or did it feel as though you had to really balance out the tyre wear, the fuel consumption, etc.? Just what did it feel like?
No, I think it's a Butters thing. The car keeps improving if you don't lock up and you don't oversteer too much. The car keeps improving. But for me, when it went dark, my confidence. Yeah, I took a little hit. So I took it a little bit on the safe side.
I think a very sensible approach, particularly when there's less and less lighting, especially in those final 10 minutes. And for our viewers at home, of course, we have the broadcast cameras, we have the ability to turn up the brightness and whatnot. But for yourself out there in circuit, I mean, the only lights available on the start-finish straight, if that. I mean, how dark does it get out there?
Today it never went really dark, but it's still very hard. I'm not very good in the dark, especially when you have other lights in your mirrors. You're distracted easily and by shadows and things like that. I get quite easily distracted, so for me it's not a pleasant thing to do, but it's part of the game, I guess.
Oh, most definitely. But to be fair, the only distraction you needed was to see the checker flag at the end, and with that adding another win to your tally. An absolutely brilliant drive to victory, and with the win today, it does look as though You're starting to move closer and closer to the top of the championship standings in the silver class. Provisionally now only 7 points off of Jeremy Debova going into the second mid-season break. How are you feeling at this point in the championship?
Quite good. I think the pace is there. Now it's just finish the races, get the points, and yeah, then we'll see what happens.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of places to see what happens, in 2 weeks' time we head to Germany for the one and only Nürburgring Nordschleife circuit, or the Green Hell as many refer to it. How are you feeling for a trip to Germany?
I did one race there before, and that went well. So yeah, let's hope it's yeah. I'll do good. I don't know. In the cup it will be hard, like today. I think. But yeah, well, I know the track. That's the thing. I've been there in real life one time, so that might help. But I like the track. It's yeah, it's a bit more. Yeah, I don't know, stressy than Batters. Batters, the walls really annoy me, and the braking zones downhill. I don't really like it. Nürburgring is. I hope it will be a bit more fun for me.
Well, fingers crossed for you that you'll be enjoying the circuit a little bit more when we do return to the racing at the Nürburgring. But just before we do let you go, as always, Lucas, is there anybody you'd like to give it a shout out or thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, as always, the team. I think we had a very good race today. We're with 3 guys in the top 4 in the silver class, so really proud of the team. And yeah, my family for if they are watching, I sent them the link. I don't know, but yeah, them.
Oh, I'm sure they'll appreciate the shout out, and well, if the wider Romano family are tuning in right now, hope you guys are all doing well and you tuned on this man because he's had a phenomenal day today. And give it up once again for Lucas Romano, ladies and gentlemen. Lucas, it's been a pleasure as always to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations on a phenomenal drive at Bathurst, and we look forward to plenty more from yourself when we return after the mid-season break.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing it there from our silver class winner today from RPM, Lucas Romano, and what a day it has been for himself at a circuit which he's not too comfortable at, as he mentioned there with regards to the feel under braking there, but still a Porsche Cup car that was coming alive more and more so long as he didn't make any mistakes, of which he was absolutely faultless, it had to be said, or at least on what we saw on the cameras, and I think that comes close to perfection. I don't know about you guys and girls, but that's what we got to see from Romano, and therefore all the way through the lap times coming on down, but they're talking about the fact as it started to go darker and darker, having a bit more apprehension about the state of the circuit and also the speed he was able to carry, but then deciding to back things off and doing the right thing, as by backing things off was therefore able to conserve his pace, conserve the car, and bring home a brilliant victory, and it puts him second place in the Silver Class Championship. He's still got some work to do versus the sister team car from DBR of Jeremy Debova, but as he mentioned there, a great day for DBR and IPM today, with all 4 of their drivers inside the top 5, albeit not quite able to make it a 1, 2, 3, 4, with Bouts just being pipped to the post by Fritsch in the battle for P4, but still a great day, and on a personal level, a great day for the RPM driver of Lucas Romano. But now we come on to our second interview, ladies and gentlemen, and well, it brings me a great pleasure always to have joining me in the interview room, the one and only Olympus Esports and representing Olympus XGD for this season, Thomas Cope. Thomas, what a day for yourself today. I mean, qualifying, perhaps there was a little bit of a upset there, not quite able to put it on the front row versus the Impulse Racing lockout that did occur. But when we went racing, quickly finding your way into P2, and shortly afterwards going battling with your good old rival of Philip Hammer and finding your way through early in the race. It looked as though Bathurst today, everything went right when it mattered most.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying thank you to the Olympus Esports team and getting me on the grid. That race today was really fun. It was next level. And yeah, as you say, Philip put on a really good fight. I think we were 3 wide for 3 or 4 corners. So it's been one of the best fights so far of the season, and we're still quite a few rounds left to go. So hopefully we can have the fight more and more, and really have a bit of a nail biter down to the final race of the season.
Oh, most definitely. And, well, speaking about the fight, of course, the fight always begins for track position in qualifying. And you're talking about being on the grid today for this race at Bathurst. And we talked last time about the fact everyone looking forward to this round, yourself included. And when we went into qualifying, at first it looked as though you had the advantage by a tenth, but as the session went on, Nicholas Nold seemed to come out of nowhere with quite a magical lap.
Yeah, like I said, Nicholas put a really good lap together. Really pieced up. I think he had a bit of a draft as well. I'm not too sure. But I just couldn't put the lap perfectly together. The setup that we had created, it was great in race pace, but we didn't quite have the qualifying nailed down today. But pace was still there. I was confident in myself for the race going ahead, and yeah, it proved it in the race having a good one.
Now, I have to ask with regards to qualifying, because it's always been either yourself or Philip Hammer on the top spot of the grid so far. Around here, without giving any secrets away perhaps, but what's the art to delivering a good qualifying time around here? I mean, you've got the walls that are ever closed, you've also got to have a car that's very light on the fuel, and as a driver you've got to be confident, but what for you do you think is what the best of the best chase at Bathurst to be on pole?
It's like you say, it's having that perfect lap. You have to get close to every wall. You can't leave a millimetre out on track. And it's how close do you dare push it. Obviously, you pick up a 0x on the wall here, you're gonna invalidate your lap, which will, in theory, will just ruin your time. So it's just piecing together that perfect lap and getting as close as you dare, really maximising as much as possible. And yeah, Nicholas and Philip, both ahead of me, did really put together some good laps today.
Oh, most definitely. And then going into the race, we saw at the start a brilliant attempt down into turn number 1 from yourself in trying to take P2 as a minimum. But it looked as though Nicholas saw what was coming and very quickly covered you off. But you weren't going to let that stop you from trying to go for P2.
Yeah, it was a great battle into turn 2 between myself and Nicholas. We had a good little chat about it post-race. Yeah, it was spicy. We knew it was going to kick off. We both lost sight of our braking markers, and unfortunately for Nicholas, he got out wide into the wall, I think, as well. And I lit up the rear tyres trying to get out the corner, and had a nice little 2 wide with Nathan, I think he was, behind as well. Luckily letting me go and then let me knuckle down and chase after Philip in front.
Well, most definitely. As we do look back at some of the pictures and that opening lap here and that brilliant battle, when the race has started to evolve into its next phase, obviously the opening 10 minutes of the race, pushing hard and whatnot, and we saw you have that brilliant side-by-side battle with Philip in to the chase chicane. In the run after Philip, were you starting to notice that perhaps you were gaining on particular parts of the lap, or at that point in the race the pace seemed to be more in your court? Because it seemed as though at first it was looking to be even between the two of you, and then there's these small spurts of pace in your favour.
Yeah, I could feel the pace from Philip was... it was there, he was doing well, but I could feel that he was a little slower than what I knew I could do. And being behind the car, I feel the front end washing out quite a bit as well. So I knew I had to make a move early to try and then maximise the most of my setup and really get some good pace out. And it'd be lovely to see again. I don't know if you are able to get it, but the fight that me and Philip had, I think it was on lap 4 or 5, going down into from Forest Elbow out to turn 1 as well. It was really mega between the two of us.
I think we might be able to get that in short order. In fact, we're just about to get that appear on the screen. And indeed, with regards to that battle, a phenomenal moment between the two of you after you come out of Forest Elbow. As we see it now, the charge down into the Conrod. And just here, it looks like everything hooked up on the brakes.
Yeah, down on the brakes, really maximising the most. And Philip obviously holding it around the outside. He did a mega job keeping it in. It's not easy to stay in around the outside here, and I think I played it respectful. I didn't maximise as much as I could, but it was a great fight between myself and Philip. And these pictures right now, they're really showing how well and how respectful we are as drivers to each other.
Oh, 100%. And as you both made your way back up the mountain straight in the run up towards Griffiths Bend, it did look as though Philip didn't quite have the run he needed to get back at you. And at that point onwards, it looked as though that was the way the race was going to go for the time. But then I have to ask, now that you're leading, you've got clear air in front of you, and it's all about just trying to keep pumping those laps in lap after lap. What stops you from potentially having that momentary lapse of concentration at Bathurst and that one race-ending tap to the wall?
There's nothing there that can really stop it. You've just got to keep your focus rattled in and hit your marks as much as you possibly can. I did have a moment or two, but I had a few little rear slides, but it's as long as you keep your rhythm, and this track is all about rhythm going up through the mountain section. As long as you're in that groove and you're hitting it consistently, you can't really go too wrong. The car sits perfectly every lap the same. So yeah, managing to put it in the same position every lap for the full race distance really helped maximise the pace. And you could see towards the end of the race, the laps were coming in thick and fast, and we were just getting faster and faster.
Oh, indeed. And the fastest lap today going to Nicholas Nold, a 204.41 to the nearest hundredth, as we've got on our data here. I mean, we could see towards the end of the race, the two of you starting to have a little bit of a back and forth exchange for that fastest lap. Of course, it's worth an extra point or two this season. Was there always that temptation there to perhaps push more and more to the very limit, as if it was a qualifying session?
I will admit that was my target. That was what I was trying to hit lap in after lap. Trying to push for that final fastest lap, and I was never really going to be in the shot. Nicholas had the slipstream towards the end for the last 10-15 laps from his teammate Philip, so it kind of took that chance away from me. But it was my target to just keep hitting the perfect laps every lap and staying consistent, which helped towards the end for the win anyways. But ultimately, yeah, if Nicholas got that fastest lap, it's not too much of an issue. Still a long season anyways. He can take that point nicely because it was a great lap, to be fair, as well. All credits to those guys. They put on a great race tonight.
Oh, indeed. And brilliant racing for the podium between yourselves as a trio. And it has implications now for the championship going into our second mid-season break. You move into P2. Provisionally, with the gap between yourself and Philip now down to, if my maths is correct, 25 points. You technically have a drop score in hand as you missed the first two rounds of the season, so the gap is inching ever closer. How are you feeling at this point in the championship, knowing there's only what is the best part of 5 rounds to go, and things are starting to look up?
I feel like I'm in kind of the driving seat. I'm not in that prime position for the looking like I am winning the championship. Obviously, Philip does sit in that position right now. But obviously, I missed that first race, or first two races in Vera, which really put me on the back foot to begin with. But knowing that the drop round was going to be in play, if you take that drop round off now, I think I'm sat 30, 40 points ahead currently in the standings. So I feel like I'm in the driving seat. It's just same as last season, just managing the pace, staying consistent, and keeping the good run of racing up. If I'm always up at the front two positions, the seasons are going to come down nicely to the wire. I think Philip's putting on some really good pace as well, so it's keeping it really close in that championship fight.
Oh, most definitely. And then the wider teams championship going into today, it was Olympus X Geodesic who were leading by a single point over Impulse Racing. Impulse Racing have now provisionally retaken the lead by 6 points, but the gap between your two teams could not be closer. How are yourself and Oystein feeling about this battle, knowing that it's going to be every point that matters from this point onwards?
It was always going to be that case. Impulse, obviously having Philip and Nicholas, really have two good drivers on the grid that are always going to be contesting at the front of the field. So it just needs a couple of mistakes from either driver, which comes thick and rare when it does happen. So we'll just keep nailing what we can. Oyster's doing a mega job from what he has. We do work together a bit behind the scenes, but there's only so much you can do for someone who's not in theory your actual real life teammate in your actual leagues. But me and Oyster work together quite a bit, and we would say we're pretty good friends and help each other out here and there.
Well, it's great to hear the teamwork that's going on behind the scenes between the two of you as part of the collaboration for this season and that championship battle. We'd love to see how it all plays out when we do return after the mid-season break. But Thomas, just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to? As always, we have seen a few of the Olympus guys in the Twitch chat today, particularly Olympus Patrick, who we say hello to and says, what a drive from yourself.
Yeah, I'll start off. I'll thank yourself for the amazing broadcast. I'm going to love watching the whole thing back when it goes live on the YouTube. Thank you to the whole league side, all the admins for even putting on the season and the series. It's really fun. I love listening to what they have to say before races to give those little tips and help us out as drivers to really just go and have fun on the track. And then going down the team side, all the sponsors, to HSR, helping us get on track and giving the drivers every opportunity possible our partners IMB Racewear for the awesome team gear, jerseys, gloves, boots, and also Grip Engineering for the assistance. We're helping maximising our race sets and really being able to push the most pace we can every time we go out on track. And then finally, just the whole team, Olympus Esports, for everything we all do. And a big thank you to all the drivers that have come and tried to represent and watch the broadcast tonight. I know, like I say, a couple of them have been in and really here, really supporting myself on track.
Well, Thomas, it's been an absolute blast as always to have you join me in the interview room this evening. A great drive for yourself, earned the hard way at Bathurst, no question about it, to make it 3 wins in a row to go into the mid-season break. Will that run of wins continue when we do return at the Nürburgring Nordschleife in a couple of weeks' time? We'll have to wait and see. But until then, we wish you all the best as you enjoy the mid-season break and look forward to seeing you back out on the circuit in Germany 2 weeks from today.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing there from Thomas Cope, the Olympus Esports driver for Olympus X Geodesic, who once again on gold standard form today. Qualifying very close and missing out on pole, but to be fair, where the devil was in the detail was when we went racing, as we got to see replays of both the move for P2 versus Nicholas Nold, albeit having to do it the hard way going through Griffiths Bend, with Nold doing everything to keep Thomas at bay, but in the end outstepping his bar under braking into Griffiths and almost leading to what would have been Nathan Foster coming on through for P2. But after holding on to second place for himself, a few laps later on lap number 3, we saw the brilliant side-by-side battle between Thomas and Philip Hammer, and in the end coming down to the run out of turn 1 on lap number 4, and that is when the Olympus Esports I was able to take the lead and start to break away. And well, every little breakaway, every point is going to be so critical as this championship comes down to the finest margins at the end of the season. But talking there as well about in the Drivers' Championship, that growing confidence, whilst he's not leading the championship on paper, when you start to take the drop scores away, he is leading the championship by a reasonable margin, and that is giving Thomas Cope growing confidence. Indeed, for the Olympus X Geodesic pair of himself and also Øystein Hereford, they'll be feeling as though whilst they're 6 points behind in the championship provisionally currently versus Impulse Racing, there's still a way to go, and it's still highly possible that they could get the double of what would be the Drivers' Championship and also the Teams' Championship crown. And with that belief, well, there comes boldness, and will we see more of that in the Nürburgring? I definitely think we may do. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come on to our final interview for today. But whereas it normally be a single interview, we're going to be having a double interview from the bronze battling pair of what was Charlie Max and Ben Kirby, as they get ready to join me in the interview room. And we're going to get to hear their perspective on a phenomenal battle that came all the way down to the final lap of racing. And well, let's bring them both into the interview room for Friends Racing by Connexus and All Spares by Connexus, respectively. And as they do join me now, good evening to you, Ben. Good evening to you, Charlie. And well, it's a pleasure to have you both join me for this double interview. And what a day of racing from yourselves at Bathurst. I mean, you two ran nose to tail, not separated by more than a second, for 45 minutes. And on the final lap, when we're in overtime, effectively, on the 22nd lap, that's when the move is made for the win by yourself, Charlie. I mean, you cannot make this up. It was a phenomenal race. I mean, how was it for you guys out there?
Well, hello, Paul. Yeah, what a race! I wasn't expecting to be winning, on the last, what was it, second to last corner. Yeah, I mean, I was struggling towards the end of the race. The car was a bit looser than I wanted to be, but I sort of just tried to stick with Ben. Ben was my little tour guide around this track. I just sort of made sure I stayed behind him, and that's how it went.
Oh, most definitely. And Ben, your thoughts of being the tour guide for the best part of the entire race, if you will. I mean, it was close margins. You can't begrudge Charlie, but at the same time, I can imagine you're probably thinking right now, if only I could have done something a little bit more to keep him at bay.
Yeah, well, good evening. He's spot on in the fact that I was a tour guide. I was driving around going, how am I going to get rid of this guy? The headlights kept getting closer, further away, closer. I was like, I just could not get rid of him for the life of me. I think he drove a brilliant race, and when it come down to when it mattered, he just found the opportunity and he slotted it through. So you can't blame him for that. I think it was, he might be able to help me here, it was maybe 2 or 3 laps before that move came through. he made a dive into turn 1, and I was like, oh, we're dancing, are we? I thought we were sort of just looking after each other, and he was like, nah, we're gonna dance. So from then on, it was sort of all go, but I just defended a bit too hard into the, I think they call that the chase. And yeah, through he went. He seen the opportunity around the outside. I seen him come in, but to slam the door on him there would have been, you know, not the best thing to do, because I think what a few people don't know is we're best mates in real life as well. We see each other on the weekends and, you know, spend time together. So it's, I got to think about that as well. It's not just the racing.
Oh, completely understandable. And well, best friends off the circuit, and also great racers and friendly foes on the circuit. And it didn't just start with the race today. In qualifying, we saw the two of you once again contest pole position, and it going to yourself, Ben, by a 10th in the end at a circuit where a 10th literally can be made or lost in a couple of corners. I mean, just take us through from your perspective, taking pole at Bathurst. That is no mean feat when it comes to sim racing.
No, you're spot on. It's definitely, it was a tough session. Bathurst is probably my favourite track in the world. I think that's been installed in me by my old man. He loves watching Bathurst and Greg Murphy, Lap of the Gods. If you haven't seen that, get on it. It's on YouTube. And yeah, that wasn't by any stretch a Lap of the Gods, but for my pace, it felt sort of right around my personal best sort of time, and the Delta matched that. And as Thomas said, you've got to get as close to the wall as you dare. Those boys get closer than we will, but it's a great feeling to take pole around here, especially by a 10th. You know, as you say, that's such a small amount of time around here. So yeah, I was really impressed with that, and I was quite deep down, I'm disappointed I couldn't hold on to it, but you know, it was a good race, and to get pole was good. So the pace is there, but we'll see what we can do for the rest of the season.
Oh, most definitely. And to yourself, Charlie, missing out on pole by a 10th, I have to ask, did you feel as though perhaps there was a bit more time out there in qualifying, or was the lap you put together the best, or your target, if you will, for qualifying?
I was quite happy with it, to be honest. My goal was sort of like a 7.8, so I think the lap that I put together was, you know, where it should have been. You know, I'd have obviously liked to be in front of Ben, but that 10th a second, you know, that's nothing really. I'm quite happy with how it went. You know, getting through traffic and whatnot, trying to get some clear air. It sort of worked out how, you know, the best it could have been really around this sort of track.
And just on that traffic situation, when we did go racing, we saw the two of you keep it relatively calm through the opening lap. And as the race went on, every time you seem to be getting close to one another, and we'll stay with yourself, Charlie, there just happened to be a silver driver or two who would just find their way to get in the mix and get in front of yourself and then go chasing after Ben. I mean, did you find that frustrating at all, thinking, right, I've got him, I might be able to go for a move here, and then suddenly, oh, well, there comes Glenn Humberstone, for example, or one of the other silver class drivers, just to put themselves into the mix?
I knew that I could stick with Ben, so when it came to drivers coming up behind, I've obviously seen them on the relative, you know, just chipping away, getting behind me, and at the end of the day, I don't need to hold them up. They've got their own race. I just need to stick with Ben. So where possible, you know, I made one or two wait because I thought, you know, I need to race my race at the same time. I obviously want to let them go, but I can't just, you know, lose time as such. But I mean, it worked out the best it can again, really. You know, I let one or two past, just where I thought it was appropriate, you know, just let off the throttle a little bit into a braking point. Just, you know, made it as much so that I wasn't losing that much on Ben. And in that way, it worked out quite well. So.
Oh, most definitely. And looking to yourself, Ben, of course, the second driver in those scenarios to have the silver driver come on through to take an overall track position. Were there any points where you thought as though you might be able to leverage that to try and create a bit of a gap?
If you want me to be entirely honest, every time I seen a driver in between us, I was like, right, I'm going. And I still couldn't go. So I think, as Charlie said, he managed it really well. He picked and chose his places to let them through. He knew where he was quicker than me. I knew where he was quicker than him. And I think when it comes down to that, we sort of were fast in opposite parts of the track, so I had better runs out of the forest elbow every lap, whereas he was better up and down the hill, but around the bottom half of the track I was a bit better. So we ended up equaling each other out, but for the split second that there's cars in between us, I'm sort of looking at it going, I'm going to run away here, and he ain't going to come back. But sure enough, he'd show his headlights again, and I'd be back under the cosh. So I think he drove a mega race, and he timed it all perfectly and managed the traffic perfectly, and he got his reward come the end.
Oh, indeed. And coming on to the end, obviously we've been through quite a long period of the race at this point, and as you both talked about earlier, that initially the move into turn at number 1, which didn't quite work out for Charlie, you were able to hold position, Ben, but the light's getting lower as well, and I have to ask, does the lack of ambient light at that point and having to run just with headlights change it from your relative perspectives in terms of being able to run close and battle, or is it just another day in the office, whether it's daylight or nighttime?
For myself, it's just another day in the office. I think my reference points that I try and use, it don't really change depending on whether it's light or dark. We did quite a lot of dark running. We knew it was going to be around this sort of twilight sort of area, so we sort of focused our practice on that. And as it got darker, ironically, Charlie was better in practice as well. So it didn't really make too much of a difference whether it was daylight or getting dark. So it wasn't too different for me personally. I think Charlie would be able to speak for himself. Obviously, I think he was better throughout the darker periods of the race, and we've seen that at the end. So the car held up. The car was pretty mega. You know, I think Charlie was struggling with fronts at the end, but my car was pretty solid the whole way through, and I managed it well. So it's a shame to not get the win, but Charlie did mega again. So.
And yourself, Charlie, just thoughts on that
Yeah.
transition?
Yeah, going on from that, I think I prefer, you know, the dark driving in the dark, driving in the dark. So I don't know why it is. When we've done endurance races before, I've sort of nominated myself to do the night sessions because I quite enjoy it. Don't know why. I think I'm better in the dark. What the difference is, I don't know. But I mean, in this race, it sort of did me well to drive in the dark. I both times now, Detroit and now driving in this sort of twilight evening sessions, it's it's done me well, and I've done quite well. So yes, I enjoy it, and that's that.
Oh, most definitely, and that enjoyment really shining through today at Bathurst, particularly in those closing laps and that brilliant battle between the two of you going down into the chase chicane. Indeed, nothing between the two of you then, and great respect being shown. But of course, now open up to the wider championship. The two of you have occupied the top spot on the podium every time this season so far in the bronze class. There's barely anything between you, and looking to yourself, Charlie, going into this mid-season break, you're now 6 points ahead of Ben, but again, 6 points can be overturned in the space of just a single round of racing. How are you feeling at this point in the championship?
I mean, I don't really look at and analyse that sort of information that much. I know we've got quite a decent gap from everyone else in bronze, probably 24 points, something like that now. I'm not scared of Ben. I know he can drive well. We've sort of had the conversation, of course we need to race each other, but at the same time we've got to be a bit passive. When we've done these races, we sit in our own Discord chat and we communicate all the time. When people have passed me on track today, I'm saying, just watch out, this, that, whatever. So we do try and help each other. But you've got to have that little bit of racing as well, which is obviously why I put it through on the last corner. But it's anyone's game. I think the last two rounds, Imola and Road Atlanta, it is gloves off. We've both sort of had that conversation of we've both just got to run at the end, and we will fight fairly because we know what each other drives like and all that sort of stuff. So. I'm confident at the moment. Nürburgring is my life love, that place, so I'm quite confident with my performance, or how it's going to be there. It depends on what Ben can do, isn't it? If he can stick with it, I think he's got it. So it's up to him really to run this to the end.
Oh, most definitely. And looking to yourself, Ben, of course, you're the pursuer at this point, and when we return in 2 weeks' time, 2 rounds of racing at the Nürburgring at Nordschleife. Is the game on?
I don't really know how to say it really, because Charlie knows exactly what we're both thinking. And that's the fact that when I say this man knows the ring like the back of his hand, I can't even tell you, Paul. Honestly, it's a joke. It is an absolute joke. He'd probably know how to get round the ring better than his own house. So I'm going to have to put some practice in and see where we end up. But I think it'll be a round of just trying to get the points that I can. If something happens and I end up winning a race, then great. I'll push him. I'm not going to let him run away with it by absolutely no means of the imagination. But as Charlie's already stated, I think once the ring's passed, the friendship might just get put to the side for a couple Thursday evenings, and we'll drink it with a couple of beverages of the good type on the weekend and put it all aside. But once those final 2 rounds come in, that's it. I don't think the friendship really matters for those. Well, when the green flag goes, so we'll see. But as Charlie said, it'll all be respectful and fair. So we'll see what we can do.
Oh, absolutely brilliant, and I love to hear it. Well, with that in mind, and we do look forward to seeing you both out of the circuit 2 weeks from today. Just before we let you go, starting with yourself, Ben, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a special thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, massive shout out to the Connexus boys as always. They're keeping us 2 going for sure. They don't so much help, they don't do anything to help with the running of the cars or anything like that, but they help keep us, focused and saying, you got this on Thursday, and it just helps keep everything moving. So big shout out to them, and I think it'd be unfair for me to sit here, and I'm not sucking up to him. I think Charlie drove an absolutely top race tonight. I couldn't shake him off, and I think that to stay with someone over the hill, down the hill, round the bottom, and to stay with someone like that, it takes quite a lot. So I think fair play to him, and that's my shout out. So I think he was absolutely mega. So thank you, Paul, for the interview, and we'll see you at the ring.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. And coming to yourself, Charlie, quickly, is there anybody else you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to today?
Same, different, I suppose. The Connexus guys, Joe, who raced tonight, he set us up with the paint jobs and stuff. I asked for something really, really specific, and he knocked it out of the park. So I'm really happy with that. Driving with Ben, it's a matter of complimenting each other. He's just as good as I am, and it's just teamwork. It's an effort. It's just everything as good as it could be. Driving this really, and you guys are really cool with setting it up. So I'm glad I found this league. I've not really done anything like it before. So thank you guys. And yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you both join me for an interview this evening. Phenomenal racing from you both, from lights out to checkered flag, and even in the qualifying session, how close it was. But still, congratulations to you both, and a slight special congratulations, of course, to yourself, Charlie, for managing to take the win in at the end by the smallest of margins. We look forward to seeing you both back out on the circuit at the Nürburgring for rounds 9 and 10 after the mid-season break. But until then, enjoy the rest. You've both earned it, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Perfect. Cheers, Paul. Cheers. Bye. Bye-bye.
So hearing that there from our double interviews this evening in the bronze class of Charlie Max and Ben Kirby. One from Friends Racing by Connexus, the other from All Spares by Connexus, but all part of the same major outfit of Connexus Motorsport. And what a day it's been for them. And here and there, the respect and admiration they have for one another. 2 best friends off the circuit and great friends and rivals on the circuit. And that's what we love to see, enjoying the battling. A 10th between them in qualifying in the favour of Ben Kirby, but throughout the race, as these pictures have continuously shown in the background whilst we've been talking to both of them, inseparable at Bathurst. I mean, who would have thought it that they would be this close over 45 minutes of racing? Indeed, the gap never got beyond 1.5 seconds when they had a driver between them, and when there was nobody between them, the gap never moved beyond half a second, if that. Phenomenal driving and to stay that close. But one thing that's very interesting, a good point raised by Ben, in the fact that whenever we have seen a race transition to the night or the early portion of the night, we have seen Charlie come on a bit stronger by comparison, and he does seem to be a lot more comfortable in those nighttime conditions and that evolution of the track as it moves to be a colder and colder track surface, and perhaps that might be just the edge that he's got at the moment over his rival, but otherwise there is nothing between them. 6 points is what separates them in the Bronze Class Championship, with Charlie Max leading over Ben Kirby. Will it stay that way when we go to the Nürburgring? I think it may, if, as they say, Charlie is the Nürburgring specialist, and therefore it will be Ben who is the one who has to make the late charge in the final 3 rounds of the season. But still, we've got plenty to look forward to as a result with regards to this championship battle. And while they may put the friendship on the side for the final 3 rounds, from rounds 11 through to 13, I'll tell you one thing, they're going to emerge from this one with grins aplenty when it's all said and done. But which of the two of them will have the ultimate bragging rights? That's the question that we hope to have the answer to in the near future. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of our interviews today, and thank you to all 4 of our interviewees. You firstly heard from Lucas Romano, the Silver Class winner today from RPM. We then heard from your Gold Class and overall winner of what was Thomas Cope for Olympus X Geodesic, albeit there we do have him listed as taking pole position in qualifying, but that's not quite correct there, and we do apologise for that slight blooper with regards to listing. And then we did have Charlie Max for Friends Racing by Connexus, the Bronze Class driver, taking the win in the race, missing out on pole by a 10th versus Ben Kirby, our second bronze entry, simultaneously with Charlie today, the All Spies by Connexus driver, taking pole position when we did go qualifying, but not quite able to hold on to that win, all coming down to the final 3 corners on the final lap. But if any 4 of these drivers have caught your eye for your Driver of the Day nomination, do let us know using the link in the Twitch chat. That link is there once again. Congratulations to all 4 of them, and thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the UK sim racing community, perhaps you're very eager to get back on the grid in sim racing, you want a nice comfortable set of leagues to get on the grid too, well that's exactly what we do here at UK Sim Racing. We're all about leagues from esports professionals all the way through to rookies of iRacing, and the best place to go to firstly to find out more about us as a community is to go to our official website. You saw it earlier in the broadcast today, that's uksimracer.co.uk. Alternatively, if you don't want to go to our website just yet, perhaps you're more of a social media person, we do recommend you go to our Twitter. That's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, where you can also stay up to date with all the latest trials and tribulations and performances of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams, just as much as you can find out about upcoming broadcasts and our upcoming and ongoing series. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include Swelly Omeda Sim Racing Coaching. And Swelly Omeda is the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist, whose sim racing coach can help take your sim racing drive to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swelly Omeda has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swelly being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PESCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware, as a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. Amazon, the company trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include, but not limited to, one-click shopping, Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Fire TV. And lastly, but not least, SRC Driver Academy. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? To put it simply, affordable, quality coaching. They have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights and a competitive edge. They make high-quality coaching accessible to all at an affordable cost tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more, and they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So do join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we're going to be decelerating as we are now going to head into our mid-season break, the second of them. But don't fret, we may miss the racing next Thursday, but 2 weeks from now on Thursday, the 16th of November, we'll be raising up the garage stalls. We'll be sending our Porsche Cup machines back onto the circuit, and what a way to return with rounds 9 and 10 at the Nürburgring at Nordschleife. Our drivers will be taking on the ultimate challenge in motorsport that is the Green Hell. But the question is, who will be the ringmeister when they take on the infamous circuit? We'll find out then. Save the date. You won't want to miss it in the return to the heat and feature format. But until then, we have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.